it's coming upon the end of the season, so we can start establishing meetings with them. I kind of feel a little like it's ironic that as an IRA member that I'm having to call a treaty meeting. You know, they are an established group, Black Hills Sioux Nation Treaty Council. And I don't feel like it's my place as an IRA representative to call that, but you know, at this point, it's basically, I guess I have to call it to have a meeting with them in terms of office stuff, in terms of establishing an office. That is actually one of the most difficult things right now because I can't even get my AC and my floor fixed in terms of infrastructure. So it's really difficult for me because right now, I honestly have that 1870 cradle sitting on my desk because we don't have a space for it. I can't get the floor fixed. I can't get my carpet ripped out because of the mildew. You know, I mean, there's a big problem in terms of that, but I will do better in terms of the treaty council and just hoping we can get schedules met together. And, you know, right now that's pretty much it in terms of the office. I have a binder and that's basically it in terms of the treaty council documents. So.
Thank you. I don't believe I asked to call for a meeting. It's establishing an office in your office, working with the council to establish that office. And I understand they're an elder group. However, there has to be a means to continue the education of those treaties. I understand the relationship between the IRA government. However, there's a need for education and the need to carry on the history of our tribe. And that's where I want to ensure that our governing body pushes that education for our people, for our younger generation, so that they continue that fight on. There's a need to protect our land, our water, our resources, and we do that with our treaties. With an office, we can move in that direction. It's a start.
It is, and I do actually, in terms of the water rights and land and all this too, I do keep abreast of all of that. I have been submitting official comments, different things in terms of solidifying a stance on a lot of these things. So, you know, I do work on those, and you know, it's just we're interveners on some of these cases in terms of the gold mining in the Black Hills, the water rights, everything kind of comes into play in that, and so I do put out official, I guess, proposals on it, or you know, our official stance on that. So I do, you know, even if I don't put it in this, I do work on that. So
my last question, and you stated that you do provide comments. Are you including the Black Hills Sioux Nation Council when you're making those comments?
That one I haven't. I was assigned to Mario Gonzalez in terms of helping prepare my official statements and stance on this. So I will actually give them that copy of what I have drafted and everything, and just I'll give it to the council.
Thank you, President.
Councilwoman Little question.
Thank you, President. Good afternoon, fifth member. Just reading your report. I was just kind of wanting to know, I guess, through the fifth member's office, we were getting calls that Jeff Parsons, I think, is trying to communicate with you or get a hold of you, but they couldn't get through, no answer, or I think they were emailing you, but no reply. So I think this might be with that Dewy Burdock issue, the mining. So have you gotten any kind of correspondence from them? I think they're trying to reach out to you.
Yes, I have actually. I was emailing with him. He has my personal private cell number, so he always reaches out to me via that. And I do, Dewy Burdock is one of the biggest challenges I've worked with. It's been on my radar since 2016. in terms of having official consultation, all of this. So yesterday, I know they passed something here in regard to that letter. And the ball is in our court right now in terms of we need government to government consultation. So Dewy Burdock, this particular uranium mine, its proposed uranium mine and proposed permitting is it's in our court now. And so, all we need to do is set a time and a date to have the official government to government consultation with NRC, which is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. I actually did a site visit to the mine itself in Edgemont. And, we have 2 huge piles of uncovered tailings from the 1950s. And in terms of contamination and all of this, and people, this is why it's uncovered. They're out, it's airborne, and just being at that site alone, just really impacted me because the people that took us on the tour with NRC, the Power Tech or I don't know what their new clean energy corporation, they actually, they say there's nothing here, nothing grows here. And this is why we're proposing this site. But when you go out there that day, that morning, I saw medicines growing there. I seen things that they don't see. And that was the major thing. I actually said it to them that morning. I said, you say that this environment and this land here is so harsh and the only thing that grows are cactus, but there was other medicines out there. And so I said, you disregard our viewpoint in terms of Native people. And I said, I see medicines, and it was a big open field. It would look like something out here, just an open field, but they had 2 giant, almost mountains of tailings from the 1950s. And I said, that's why we're contaminated. This is why all of our waterways are contaminated. But the Dewy Burdock site itself, they're proposing an underground holding space where they would transfer all of these things to be processed, the uranium to be processed. And that in itself, I was like, you disregard everything. And so we, at that morning, it was Northern Cheyenne, Northern Arapaho, and us that were present. And, it's just, it's one of those things that the ball is in our court. So I'm looking forward to NRC's response, and Jeff Parsons, once we get that official letter sent out to them, inviting them for a day to have this government to government consultation. And that's one of the things we, through Land Committee, I want to see if we can get a training for all of our legislators, so we can be prepared to ask them questions and ask them these things when it comes to that day to actually have that government to government consultation. But, it's Dewy Burdock, we have Crow Butte, all of these things are popping up again. And so we really need to take a hard stance on all of this and put that out that our treated territories are nuclear free zones. We're against mining, all of these things, because it's just something that kind of falls to the wayside. And so I know we put our comments down for the gold mining that happens in Spearfish Canyon, this project, the Ponderosa project. And there's several that have popped up since. So we got to we're on the forefront. We work with Black Hills Clearwater Alliance. We're always reaching out to them, and then they give us the news on any permits or anything, or, they put that out. And so we try and work really hard with them and just keep in-person things going, communication back and forth between them. So, but, that's one of the things that I love to do. I just sit there and, we can get these drafted and get them, our official comments out there. So.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you're in communication then with them, and you're working with them, not only Mr. Parsons, but Mr. Red Cloud, Reno, of all of that too. So, I think we just need to make sure we're communicating and we're on top of all of the things that are kind of coming our way. So I'm glad you're doing that. But that's all I had, President.
Okay. Also, I have a comment here, just on the topic of this mining and stuff. This is a joint effort sometimes. So where we do have to team up with other tribes to tackle some of these issues, and we have intervened more than a couple times. I know last administration, we did the same thing. We're spur of the moment, we had to be right there. And those of you that showed up at some of these sites or these hearings or wherever they're having these talks, you know, it's good that, you know, you get involved. You know, we can't just rely on a fifth member to throw it all down there and demand stuff from her. It takes a team effort. That's why I try to show up when I can, when it comes to mining issues, because I believe when you're there in person, it's a different story. So, and we have intervened just recently on Craven Canyon, where we had to get some comments in, but we also had to get it passed through the committee. So we jumped in and helped the Water Alliance group out, which consists of other tribes that work on water issue and land issues, things like that. So it is a joint effort, and it's great to see participation. Just want to throw that in there.
President, I'm going to motion to approve the fifth member's report.
Okay, motion by Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston, second by Councilwoman Seirs. Call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Poyer, David Kelly,
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior, Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Maya Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Yes.
$16 yes, 1 not voting, motion carried.
this one's 12.
Thank you, fifth member. Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, Chief of Police report. Okay. Chief. Is there somewhere he can use a mic? Okay, right over there by.
Byron.
Test, test. Good afternoon. I made it back to give a report. I know last council meeting, we had some emergency calls, so I didn't get a chance to give a full report. So in this report that's being passed out, I hope that that's kind of the information you guys are looking for. If that's something that you guys want to modify, if you guys want to see some other information, please let me know and I can add it on to it. But I included the last 3 months of the calls. And I'll wait till everybody gets a copy before I start going through the numbers for you. looks like everybody got a copy. I'll go through it with you. If you look on the top left-hand corner, it just shows the call for service that our dispatch center received for the month of June. So that's 5,452 calls for law enforcement action or services. Out of those 5,452 calls, 3 of them were reported to be shooting calls. 11 of those are stabbing calls. We had 93 calls for service for domestic violence. Out of those 93, 28 resulted in arrests. The next one, CN and CA, that's child neglect or child abuse cases or child endangerment. We had 24 calls for services, 29 arrests. And the reason why the arrest is higher than the calls for service is because multiple subjects were most likely arrested during that call. For instance, house party, mom and dad or aunt and whoever might have been arrested. So there might have been multiple arrests made for one of those calls. Our narcotics calls, we have 26 calls that were called in. 20 were arrested or individuals were charged with narcotics offenses. Gun calls, we've had 18 gun calls and 16 resulted in 16 arrests. Sexual assaults, there's 4 that were reported. 1 resulted in arrest. Bootlegging, that's including the bootlegging and transportation, because as you know, we ran into a hiccup with the way that the ordinance was wrote. It says in it that a transaction has to be witnessed. And if the transaction is not witnessed, we cannot charge them with the bootlegging statute. So that's when we revert back to the 537 section, which is transportation of alcohol, which is $1,000 fine, and they still have a no bonding, still have to go to court for it. So we had 6 calls of those and 4 were arrested. And for the month of June, we had 29 new criminal investigation cases that may or may not be taken and picked up by the FBI to be referred to the federal government and the U.S. District Attorney's Office for indictments. For July, we had 5,422 calls for service, 2 shooting calls, 8 stabbing, 82 domestic violence calls, 37 which ended up being arrested. Child abuse, we had 28 calls, 41 of those ended up in arrests. Narcotics, we had 33, 46 of them were charged. Again, we may get a single call, but multiple people get arrested, same thing out of a vehicle. And they could range anything from drug paraphernalia to drug possession or manufacturing, which then that would start the process of banishment once they're indicted or convicted. Gun calls, we have 22 calls for service, 26 arrests. Sexual assaults, we had 8 calls and 5 arrests. Bootlegging, we had a total of 5 calls that came into our dispatch center and 5 were arrested. And then 21 new criminal cases for the Criminal Investigation Division. For this month, I know we're not quite done yet, so those numbers might fluctuate a little bit. 4,642 calls for service, 1 shooting call, 7 stabbings. Domestic violence, we had 79 and 30 arrests. The child abuse and stuff, that was 35 calls, 29 arrests. 34 narcotics and 21 arrests. Gun calls, 16 and 16. Sexual assault, 4 calls and 5 arrests. Bootlegging, so far we've got nothing on that one. And CI cases, we have currently 3, which that number is going to be a lot higher than 3. I just haven't gotten the complete numbers yet for the month. Since June, since I took office, I've been keeping track on how much narcotics have been seized. 4.1 pounds of methamphetamine was seized. 38 grams of cocaine was seized. And that is not counting the roughly, I think it is 11 grams that were seized while our folks were assisting Rosebud with their fare. 1,002 fentanyl pills were also seized here on the reservation, locally suspect. Guns seized is roughly around 29. There's still coming some stragglers coming in for firearms that were seized during some of these calls that I mentioned above. We're currently operating with 28 police officers that are actively patrolling on the streets on shift work. We have 6 that are currently out on medical leave due to either injury or surgery or some other medical reason. We have 7 at the academy. Out of those 7, 1 is scheduled to take his emergency vehicle operations course test from the previous academy. He just has to pass that and then he can go to full duty. So he doesn't have to be recertified. He just has to go pass his driving test, so to speak. That puts us at 41 total police officers. And if I'm correct, the last number I got from the tribe was that we are allotted for 43. That's not including our 2 interdiction positions that are still open. So we currently have 4 positions open when it comes to police officers. We have 9 in criminal investigation, which is fully staffed now. Highway safety is fully staffed. I put 5 down, even though we're allotted for 6. And the reason why I put that down is because I'm assigned to highway safety, but currently I'm not in highway safety. So that puts us 1 short. So that's all the numbers I have that I wrote down that I thought that you guys may be interested in. If there's anything else that you guys would like me to add for future reports, please let me know and I can add those in there. Or if you have questions about any of these.
President.
Councilman Puyer, and then Councilman Standing Soldier, and Councilman Little Hawk Weston.
Okay, just one question. The 29 guns that were seized, how long do you have to keep them before they're destroyed or whatever you guys do with them?
So I can tell you that before I took office, when Chief Means came in, all her administration staff, we all got together, had a meeting on how we're going to implement some of the changes. And I took a nice little lovely tour through the evidence room with all the administration folks. And we have roughly over 2,000 firearms that are in our evidence room that need to be destroyed. Now, ATF is set to bring up their trailer where they're going to fire test every single one of those weapons and make sure that they're not related to any other crimes anywhere across the United States. And once they do that and they're cleared, then they're going to most likely destroy them and we get them out of our hair because they're taking up a lot of space.
When is that going to take place?
They were supposed to come, I believe it was last month, but they couldn't make it. So the plan is to be here, I believe either in September or first part of October.
Councilman Standing Soldier.
Thank you, Mr. President. You guys done? Your domestic violence that's a huge number for calls for service. How many of them ended up being stabbing, shooting calls, bootlegging transportation? How many rolled off the original call to be turned into another investigated sexual assault or just trying to find an accurate? Are these all domestic violence calls?
So the way that we label the calls is, let's say somebody calls and says, hey, there's a fight going on in the street. Somebody calls in disorderly person fighting in the street. We get there and we find out that the people that are fighting is boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. We change that call status then from intoxicated disorderly person to a domestic violence person. If they were to stab each other, then that will go into be categorized as a stabbing call because it takes priority and is a more higher crime committed. But as far as the charges goes, the charges are still charged out as domestic violence, aggravated assault, or weapons offense, aggravated weapons offense assault. So there are different charges for each one of those. Do some of these intertwine? Oh, yes, they do. And that's one of the reasons why you see, you know, you have your DV call where somebody may call in a domestic violence call. We get there and then we find out it's not a true domestic violence call under the domestic violence statute that the tribe has. So therefore, it may just be an assault call or maybe just an assault, a stabbing call. So some of these will get downgraded, but this is the accurate numbers that we have once they are reclassified from the original call that the RP called in. So if somebody calls in and says there's just an intoxicated person, we get there and the guy has a gun, that then becomes a gun call and not a intoxicated person call.
So I guess the criminal code says domestic violence is, say, a man who's in fear that he's going to get assaulted or something by his wife, and that's automatic domestic violence?
So the domestic violence code says that you obviously have to live in the same household. And they do accept common law marriage, if I remember correctly. So there's certain elements that we have to meet in order for somebody to be charged as domestic violence. They have to be either in a previous relationship or in a current relationship or be immediate family. So if it's, you know, somebody lives in Wombly and somebody lives in Oglala, they come together because of whatever event, they get in a fight, that's not a domestic violence. If that makes sense.
Yeah. The only concern I have is you have 93 calls for service and 28 arrests, 82 calls for service and 37 arrests, 79 calls for service and 30 arrests. Now, that's a big difference. So are your officers making the assumptions in the field that, no, it's not domestic violence? And then how many of these are repeat offenses from the same people that could have been prevented if someone had gotten arrested?
So the problem we run into, and the reason why they're low, and the AG, if she's here, she can testify to that as well. We get called to a domestic violence call. We get there, the guy is drunk or the female's drunk or whoever the perpetrator is. We go and arrest them and we plan on charging with domestic violence. They come into the AG's office and says, I don't want to press charges. I'm not filling out the statements, and they don't show up for court. Then that gets dismissed. And so they end up still coming to court for their intoxication or their assault, but it's not being charged out anymore as domestic violence. So that's why these numbers are going to be different, because it all depends. With domestic violence, about 80% of those cases depend on whether the victim is going to come and testify or fill out statements or give any statements to law enforcement. Even though that the code says that the tribe is the one that presses charges, I encourage you, please, on one day on criminal court, come sit in the back row and see how many cases are being prosecuted or taken forward without the victim to come in to testify. And I don't blame them, because it's hard. If you don't have a victim to come and says, yes, he hit me, he choked me, he did whatever, or vice versa, she did this to me, she did this to me, there's no proof that the AG can present to the judge saying that, hey, this person was assaulted by this person, it's a domestic violence issue. I can literally have it on videotape and they still won't take it because it's still considered hearsay. So the person that was assaulted has to show up to court, file a statement, file an affidavit, and testify in court. If they don't come and show up, then they get dropped. And until those cases get severe enough to where the victim says, you know, I have had enough, now I want to press charges, then we can move forward in the court system. And there's a lot of them that fall by the wayside. And I wish that we didn't have to go that way, but it's literally not just in Indian country. It's when I worked on county side, it's the same thing. The victim doesn't want to show up for court and they don't show up, the prosecution doesn't have a case.
Councilwoman Little Hawk West.
Thank you, President. You know, I really have a big concern with that domestic violence, the data you're just showing us. And those are some really high numbers every month, but only so much are arrested. And you're knowing that a lot of times our victims are not going to want to admit that they are being abused. So they're not going to say that. But is there somewhere in law enforcement where you could just arrest that perpetrator, the one that is victimizing that victim? Because we always hear that victims are scared and they don't want to say, yes, I admit that he's abusing me or she's abusing me. So what happens in that instant? You know, I want to know if our law enforcement are being trained in these cases like this, because we have a 72-hour hold on domestic violence. So when you get caught, you're in there for 72 hours until you go to your arraignment hearing. Now, we heard from a previous chief that a victim was victimized. The cops had it on body cam, but they wanted a jury trial. This is when they were doing jury trials. So they had a jury trial, but the victim turned around and recanted her story and said, I wasn't being abused. So what happened? The charges were dismissed, the case was dismissed, and the chief at that time was really unhappy about it. Because how does that make my officers look when it's been recorded right here? So just asking you, is the officers trained? Are they being trained by we got domestic violence programs that come here. One was just in here yesterday requesting for money through resolution. We passed it. But I want to know how many of these programs help Department of Public Safety, like training wise, how you see victims when you're coming to, when you're answering those calls. Because right now today, there's victims out there that are not going to admit that they're being abused, and the officer's just going to walk away because that victim never said otherwise. So how are they trained to take care of that? Do they just arrest them right away when those calls come in like that to maybe protect that victim? I guess that's my question, because, you know, we're dealing with things like that right now, today, in our districts, and we want to know how is those being handled by our law enforcement. So is training being provided? Because those are some high numbers, with everything on your report today. Besides the stabbing, the shooting, the guns, narcotics, domestic violence is the highest number per month. So I'm just really concerned about it. You know, so that's something I wanted to ask you.
So to answer that question, our officers are required by law, whether they go to State Academy or FLETC, they are required to have X amount of domestic violence training each year. That is a requirement. And we do reach out to the victim shelters and with advocates, and we work with them to give our officers new updates on the law changes or procedure changes. And a lot of times, the problem that we run into, the officer shows up on scene and it's up to the officer to determine who the predominant aggressor is. And if the victim is saying to the officer, nope, nothing happened, I fell down or didn't do anything, then it makes it hard for the officer to make that determination of who the predominant aggressor is. They may go in for other charges, but it may not be domestic violence because of that. And usually what they do is they give them pamphlets and make them aware of the victim services that are available. And we've had a lot of victims that go and talk to victim service advocates. And once they get their counseling and the help or talk with them, then they will turn around and they will provide the statements. And we've had a lot of cases then where the charges were added after the fact. We didn't make the arrest, but the charges were filed by the AG's office after the fact once they got a chance to talk to victim services. So victim services is a big role, and we contact them on all domestic violences. Is there some that probably aren't getting relayed? Yes, there's probably some that are falling through the cracks, but that's one of the things that we're trying to make sure with the obvious issue that we've had in the past with, you know, lack of reports and stuff. We've been holding them accountable. I'm pretty sure you guys probably seen the complaints that came from some of the officers being that, you know, they're being held accountable for, obviously, if you make an arrest, I want to see a report. If you're claiming overtime, I want to see a report, because a lot of that abuse was going on and it's not going on anymore.
Right. Thank you.
Councilwoman Spotted Bear.
Thank you, President. Good afternoon. Captain, you know, I think seeing these numbers are pretty astonishing, and it's a sad state that we're in, because you see how high the numbers are, how high the calls are for the amount of staffing that you're having to work with. And what I recognize is our child abuse, how the numbers are growing by the month. And that concerns me when we're talking about our Wakaija. And when we see the domestic violence numbers, I think about the child abuse numbers, because when we're talking about domestic violence and children in those homes who witness domestic violence, you know, some of the studies are children who witness domestic violence can endure lifelong effects of trauma. That includes affecting their developmental and cognitive abilities. So how I would see that is that's another form of abuse. And I wonder if that's an added charge to that domestic violence, if a child is in at home and there's domestic violence happening. And so that concerns me regarding that, if that's in our code and maybe that's something that we need to take back to our Law and Order Committee. Is that something, is that in that part of those numbers with your domestic violence and your child abuse?
I can't give you an exact number on how many of them are intertwined, but I can tell you that if the AG feels that any of the codes need to be added, they will add or take off whatever, I guess, doesn't meet the elements. So if I submit something saying just child abuse and they say, nope, it meets also domestic violence or gang ordinance or anything like that, they will add it to the complaint prior to that person going to court.
Thank you. And I believe Sonia hit on the area for victims of domestic violence. I know we have several areas, several programs that cover domestic violence. So I believe we can discuss that further in our Law and Order Committee in regards to how those programs respond, because when we're talking about domestic violence, those are really high numbers that I'm seeing here. I'm gonna ask also if you can add a section to identify of these numbers, who are juveniles in these numbers for all that cover all these areas. How many of these numbers are juvenile, and are the parents still being held responsible for when a juvenile is being called on?
So I can tell you that a lot of these numbers include juveniles, but I will definitely break it down for you guys that actually let you know which one's adults, which juveniles. And I can tell you that the parents are being arrested and that you actually seen some of the complaints come before you because the parents were being arrested for their juveniles causing a lot of ruckus in the different districts. And we've telling our officers that if the parent's not supervising or taking care of that child, you charge them with contributing to the delinquency of a minor, which is in the statute. And if for some reason the child neglect or child abuse falls under that as well, meaning they're not being taken care of, and that's why they're committing the crime, they don't want to go home because of domestic violence or something along those lines, then we need to make sure that those people are being held accountable and other tribal programs are being contacted. So that way CPS can get involved, victim services can get involved. If we need them to get into the youth shelter or any of those places, we always try to get a contact with them to make sure that they get the help that they need.
Thank you.
Yes, just want to comment, Chief, and I thank you for mentioning that you do hold the parents accountable for the juveniles' actions. That needs to be stated and explained, and I'm glad you did that for our listening audience, because sometimes I don't think that's getting out there at times. But I also want to mention that, I used to be a district chair one time, and it's really hard to get people to come in and write up a complaint. So I understand when your officers have to sit there and go to court and nobody shows. We mentioned this in testimony in Washington, D.C., where it ties up our officers, the court process, where our officers have to sit and babysit, or sit with I shouldn't say babysit, but sit with the prisoner, whether if he has to go to IHS and then through the paperwork before getting off duty, which takes up, if he's working a grave shift, it's taking up a lot of his sleep time. and then, he has to go right back to work in a few hours. So, and there's being a police officer right now for your department is very challenging. And my hat's off to the law enforcement out there that are, I guess, on duty, performing those many tasks that are much needed out there. So just wanted to mention that. And I'm glad that the Attorney General is working with you. So you guys work close to close on issues and you get them resolved. And I encourage you to keep doing that along with your officers out there on patrol. Sometimes they need that morale boost to keep them going those long hours. So I just want to mention that. Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Councilman Rosales.
Afternoon, Kevin. You got a number here for calls for service. Are these the calls that are actually responded to as well?
So these are the calls that actually came into dispatch. Since I've got in office, and then I know that Chief Means, we've been kind of trying to figure out a way to make sure that our officers are obviously responding to all 911 calls or emergency calls. But like we've been saying, I got 28 officers, and so I have 28 pies, and I don't care which way you slice it, I have 28 pies. And a lot of times we get calls where we have an intoxicated person walking, for instance, at Billy Mills Hall. I get the frustration of the people that are calling in, because obviously they're calling in for a reason, but that doesn't take precedence if I have a car accident with 4 people laying. That's going to obviously take more than one officer to respond to. So a lot of times the officers obviously have to prioritize on what calls they get to. And some calls are going to, if you have an intoxicated person that got called in at 9 o'clock, we had a stabbing, a shooting, and a car accident. After that, they're going to take care of those calls first before the intoxication. So then we get a call back saying, hey, that drunk guy called in at 9 o'clock. It's now 6 o'clock at night. He's not there anymore. Thanks for not coming, da-da-da-da-da. And I get that. I get that frustration, and I wish I could send an officer to every single call right away, but it's just physically and you can't do it. I mean, we covered the size of Rhode Island with 28 cops. There's plenty of times where I had a car accident south of Wombly. I literally get on scene and they call me and say, you had a fatal car accident over at Red Shirt Table. I can't drive like the crow flies, so I have to run lights and signs through Martin, and I have to stop in Martin for gas with my lights still on. I have to stop in Pine Ridge to get gas, because once I leave Pine Ridge, there's no place to get gas. So I have to make that call, and I'm running lights and signs for 2 hours. And I know some of these other officers have gone longer than that. So it's a challenge.
I agree. That's why I gave you the opportunity to speak on that. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I will include in the report too also the charge for contributing to minors. So that way you guys can see how many people or how many parents are being held accountable for their parents or their kids or brothers. Because we've been even using it for brothers. So if the brother, sister, or sibling is above age and they're allowing that juvenile to be around with them out there committing crimes, then that brother, sister, cousin, or whatever is also getting charged with contributing to the delinquency of a minor.
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve by Councilman Greenwald. We got a question?
Just to add to the report, could you put down the number of DUIs you got?
I can tell you for the year, if I remember correctly, because our goal, I believe, is 400 and something, and I think we're right at that goal for the year. And the year's over September 30th. So we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of between 400 and 460 DUIs.
And we're a dry reservation? Josh.
That is correct.
Okay, so we have a second by Councilwoman Spotted Bear. Secretary, call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Poyer, David Kelly, Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears, James Cross, George Dreamer Junior,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Yes.
Unanimous 17, motion carried. So at this time, as you know, the voices of the elders were on my agenda when I gave my report. They are here now. So at this time, I'm going to allow them to speak and do their presentation. Yeah, we'll set up something. I recognize Councilman Gosper at 2:03. Okay, so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to you, ladies.
Homitake Ihanape cheers up. Shake all of his hands, party handshake. Thank you for letting us come on. We've been working hard on this for a while, and sometimes we come up here. But what I wanted to say was, today, councilmen, we really need your vote. This isn't about you. It's about the people out there. The Lakota, a lot of people are out there. We need your vote to pass it so we can have a secretarial election. You know, we have been on Keeley. I just recently joined them, and you know, for a long time, I didn't want to join because I didn't feel like I was worthy, you know, to join. But I looked at it. I looked at it, and Robin, different ones called me, and they told me to join their group. And I feel like it's a worthy cause, and the elderly really do want this. People that elected you want this, but they can't come because we could never get a set time to come. So today I look at all of you, and this is just about your people that elected you here. Don't look at me. You're not voting because of me or Robin or anybody else. You're voting for the people you represent. So I really encourage you to vote. We need your vote. We need 14 votes so we can have a secretarial election down the road. That's all we need from you today is we get enough votes. Mitaki pitona anagop tanakok Lena hello here takana ashna vote. Wana we touch there we tag lachni gana lili here take hohena dorske charge we tak ukte hena yuktape. Tahena or watching chayana on here takap. wo pila tranke pre.
Thank you, Barb. I want to say good afternoon to the Honorable Council today and the Honorable Executive Board. We are extremely happy to be here today to finally present. And I'll start off by telling, my name is Robin Tapio, and I represent the Pine Ridge Village District and also the Voices of the Elders. And there were a lot of people that wanted to come, but a lot of us have health issues and different things. Our attorney, Marla Big Boy, wanted to be here today, but she just had surgery, so she's at home listening. And I just want to tease and say this because we have a lot of people out there listening nationwide. So I said, when we finally get to present to council, the algorithms at Keeley Radio are going to go way up because I'm serious. We have a lot of people listening. I don't know if council's been paying attention, but there's a lot of tribes throughout the United States that are looking at constitutional reform, the Navajos, and there's been some other ones up in, I think the Northern Cheyenne was on the front page of the Native Sun News, and they're looking at constitutional reform too. So it's nationwide, right? Cheyenne River, yeah. So it's a nationwide movement right now. So we're just fortunate to have the voices of the elders. And again, today, like Barb said, you know, regardless of how you feel about me, this is not about me. And I spoke at the elders thing at the casino the other day. And, you know, some of the people were not, might be opposed to us, but I started out by asking their forgiveness. And I'm going to do that to this group today. If I've offended any of you or said something that hurt your feelings, I sincerely apologize from the bottom of my heart. And I ask you to forgive me, you know, because this is not about me. This is about the future of the Oglala Sioux tribe. This is about our children and our children's children's future. And that is what the mission statement of the Voices of the Elders is. We try to, you know, Marla always says, keep it positive. And I'm glad she does, you know, because we try really hard. And, you know, sometimes people interpret things differently, and I apologize for that, but we do try to keep it positive. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start out with a couple of documents that we first got in the infancy stages of Voices of the Elders. And I won't read them in-depthly. I'll just kind of highlight each one because I know you guys have a long day and agenda. Okay, so the first resolution we got was Resolution 25-36. It was a resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving the Constitution Reform Initiative Task Force to move forward with the Strategic Task Force Work Plan of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And then the first, second, third, fourth, whereas, you know all them, but I think the highlight here is that Article 11 of the Oglala Sioux Constitution provides for amendments to the Oglala Sioux Constitution by secretarial election at the request of 2/3 of the tribal council or upon a presentation of a petition signed by 1/3 of the qualified voters and members of the tribe. And whereas the Voices of the Elder Group is requesting to be recognized to move forward with working with the Oglala Sioux Tribe constitutional amendments and onto the Oyate for review and approval for a secretarial election. Okay, and that's all I'm going to read there, but I am going to read the last whereas. It says the last whereas says it is in the best interest to recognize that it is in the best interest of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and the Oglala Oyate to approve and recognize the Voices of the Elder Group's initiative of the Oglala Sioux Tribe constitutional amendment. And then therefore now be it resolved that the above aforementioned reasons, the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe does hereby recognize and approve and supports the Elder Group's constitutional initiative moving forward. And the certification on that day, the vote was 17 were for, 0 against, 0 abstain, and 1 not voting. And that was we obtained this in a regular session held on the 29th day of January 2025. Signed, attested by Frank D. Starr comes out, president of the tribe, and Valerie Patton was the recording secretary. So this establishes our legitimacy as a group to work on constitutional reform. So when we initially started out, we were under the Law and Order Committee, and I don't know how many meetings. I know we went to one on April 16th, 2025. And at that time, I recall that there was a council meeting and Mr. Garfield Steele talked about secretarial election, and he said he felt that it should be under the president's office. So at that time, initially when we started, we were under Law and Order Committee, and then we were moved under Mr. President's, the president's office from there. So I want to look back and say we formed in March of 2024. I have all these documentations. I have a big binders back there. We have minutes for our meetings. We're very legitimate with everything we do, transparent. But in March of 2024, we initially came together at the casino, and we had over 100 people. And at that time, it was decided that we would pick only 3 initiatives. And one of them was public safety and housing, and the third one was constitutional reform, because we believe that smaller government would be more efficient right now. You know, I've been on council for, I don't even know how many years. My first administration was during the Teresa Tubal's administration. And we haven't got a whole lot accomplished in that time. And I think that a lot of it is because our council has grown so large, and the 2-year terms go by so quickly that you just don't have the time to address a lot of things, you know. And that's where strategic planning would really help, you know. So we formed in March of 2024, and we came up with 3 initiatives, and they're the 3 we're going to present today. And we've stood by those 3. Because the last time I was part of the secretarial election as group, as were some of you here, and you know that we took on a huge challenge trying to change the whole Constitution. And I didn't support that back then. I thought we bit off a lot more than we could chew, but you know, hindsight's 2020. So this time we said we'll start out small with only 5 amendments to let the people decide on 5 amendments and kind of get them acclimated to voting in a secretarial election. So Voices of the Elders started out with 3 amendments. So the three amendments we chose was, number 1 was to downsize the council to 9, one representative per district. The second amendment would be that the executive board would be selected at large by the people. So that means your president, your vice president, your secretary, your treasurer, and your 5th member would all be voted at large by the population. And you know, never in the history of our tribe have we ever had that opportunity to pick a treasurer and a secretary. So the people thought that was something else. And then the third one has to do with, the third amendment was with treasurer accountability. And we looked at that under the article. And, you know, this is the second time we've given you guys this, we've given each of you a handout here so that you could be looking at them. And I'm just I'm not going verbatim word for word. I'm just trying to present the 3 so that, you know, not with the terminology, just that you'll understand it. Trying to simplify it and move along quick. So the third one would have to do with treasurer accountability. We looked at the Constitution under the article and under treasurer responsibilities and duties, and there's not a whole lot, you know. There's 17 amendments in that Constitution. We took a look at all of them and thought that how could we make them better and stronger. So, and under treasurer responsibilities, a lot of the people felt that we need to hold our treasurer accountable. So we put some checks and balances in that amendment, and that's what you will see in your packets today. So with that said, those were the 3 amendments that the Voices of the Elders came up with. The last 2 were drafted by the Law and Order Committee, as you recall. So amendments 4 and 5 came out of the committee, and some of you sitting in the circle today were at that meeting when we discussed amendments 4 and 5, and your attorney drafted the language for amendments 4 and 5. And I apologize, President, do you have a book or no? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you. Okay, so amendments 4 and 5 came out of the Law and Order Committee, and your attorney drafted those. So those were the 5 amendments that we would like to put out there for a secretarial vote. And then the other resolution that I just wanted to mention real quickly and briefly was Resolution 25-133, and this was a resolution that placed Voices of the Elders group under the tribal president's office to work on constitutional reform. So again, I'm just trying to establish our legitimacy, that we were actually approved by this council and supported by this council to move forward. Yes.
Councilman Jumping Eagle.
Thank you. Robin, I have a question.
Yes.
Will these amendments be voted on individually or are they in a package? Because I know last time, it's when I first got on council, when them 50 amendments were brought forth, you know, it was just shot down. So are we able to, if this passes, are we able to vote on each amendment individually?
Well, it's our hope, and you know, I seen the BIA secretary, superintendent walk in, and that's good. You know, we've been kind of researching the next process, the next steps, and it's our hope and our understanding that all 5 of these will go comprehensively to the people for a vote, a yes or no vote, because that's the way the secretarial
No,
election.
I understand that, but
Oh.
I mean, are they going to be all 5 in one vote, yes or no, or you know
No, they'll be individual.
okay,
They'll be
yeah,
individual.
because there might be some that we agree with that we want to vote yes on,
That's right.
and there might be some that we want to vote no. But if it's a package, and I don't agree with one, I'm gonna vote no. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think, and that's what I think was the problem last time.
Yeah.
Was all 50 weren't separated.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, okay. So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and while you're looking at your packet, I can go ahead and read these for the record, Madam Secretary, so that they're recorded. And this is the resolution that was drafted by our attorney. So I'm going to go ahead and read that while you're looking at that, and then we'll try to move quickly here. Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and Unincorporated Tribe. Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council calling for a secretarial election pursuant to Article 11 of the Constitution. Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe is a sovereign tribal nation that has entered into treaties as a supreme law of the land with the United States government pursuant to the U.S. Constitution, Article 6, and is the signatory to the Treaty of Fort Laramie 1851, 1 Stat 749, and the Treaty of Fort Laramie 1868, 15 Stat 635, and continues the nation-to-nation relationship with the federal government. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe has adopted its constitution and bylaws by referendum vote on December 14th, 1935, in accordance with Section 16 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, 25 U.S.C. subsection 5123, and under Article 3 of the Oglala Sioux Tribe Constitution, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council is the governing body of the tribe. Whereas Article 11 of the Oglala Sioux Tribe's Constitution describes the amendment procedure as follows. The Constitution and bylaws may be amended by a majority of the qualified voters of the tribe voting at an election call for the purpose by the Secretary of Interior, provided that at least 30% of those entitled to vote shall vote in such an election, but no amendment shall become effective until it shall have been approved by the Secretary of Interior. It shall be the duty of the Secretary of Interior to call an election on at any proposed amendment at the request of 2/3 of the council or upon presentation of a petition signed by 1/3 of the qualified voters and members of the tribe. Emphasis added. Therefore, be it resolved that the Tribal Council hereby requests a secretarial election on each of the following 5 proposed amendments and are voted on individually by tribal members. Amendment 1, Article 3, Governing Body, Section 1. The current language that is in your Constitution now says, each recognized district shall elect representatives to the Tribal Council in proportion of 1 representative for each 1,000 members or a remainder of more than 500. Recognized communities with less than 500 members shall be consolidated by the Tribal Council with an adjacent recognized community. The proposed language, now this is what we're proposing, and that would be struck, the current language. Each recognized district shall elect 1 representative to the Tribal Council. So that is what the Voices of the Elders came up with, a simplified thing instead of all the current language. Okay, Amendment 2, under Governing Body, Section 6, the current language is that the officers of the Tribal Council shall be President, Vice President, elected by the members of the Oglala Sioux Tribe at large, a secretary, a treasurer, and such other officers as may be deemed necessary, elected by Tribal Council from within or outside of its own number. Officers selected from outside the membership of the council shall have no vote in the council, except that the president shall vote in case of a tie. That's the current language. The proposed language would state, the officers of the tribal council shall be president, vice president, treasurer, secretary, and fifth member elected by the members of the Oglala Sioux tribe at large. Any additional officers as may deem necessary shall be elected by the tribal council from within or outside of its own numbers. Officers selected from outside the membership of the council shall have no vote in the council, except that the president shall vote in case of a tie. So that's the new proposed language for that one. Okay, Amendment 3 is Article 13, Responsibilities of Executive Committee Officers. Section 4 talks about the treasurer. The current language says that the treasurer shall be the custodian of all funds which come under the jurisdiction or control of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council. The treasurer shall pay out funds in accordance with the laws established by the tribal council and shall keep accounts of all receipts and disbursements and shall make written reports to the tribal council at each regular and special session. The treasurer shall be bonded in such an amount as the tribal council by law shall provide. The books of the treasurer shall be subject to inspection or audit by the direction of the tribal council. Okay, that's the current language. The proposed language would say, the treasurer shall be the custodian of the funds of the tribe received from any source whatever. They shall give bond with some corporate surety bonding company in such an amount as the tribal council shall fix. The treasurer shall keep an accurate record of all funds received and dispersed by them. They shall make a monthly report to the tribal council of all such receipts and disbursements. Such report is to be made under oath, and copies of all reports shall be provided to the entire tribal council. The record shall be open to inspection at any time and at all times by the tribal council and any member of this tribe. They shall perform an additional duties provided by the tribal council that pertain to the office of treasurer. Okay, the Amendment 4, now this is the one that came out of the Law and Order Committee, and this is Article 3, and it reads, Governing Body, Section 2. The current language says each district of the reservation as follows shall be entitled to representation on the tribal council according to population as hereinafter provided. Oglala District, the tribal council shall describe boundaries by ordinance with local participation through district hearings. Wakbamini District, and then I won't read all of them, but in the Constitution, it's pretty much says the same thing. It's verbatim. It says for each one that they will be that the tribal council will describe the boundaries by ordinance with local participation through district hearings. So it goes through all 9 districts. Okay, and then the proposed language that we would like to see out there for a vote would just say each district of the reservation as follows shall be entitled to representation on tribal council as hereinafter provided. Wakbamini District, Wounded Knee District, Porcupine District, Medicine Root District, Eagle Nest District, Pass Creek District, Lake Creek, and Pine Ridge District. The tribal council shall describe district boundaries by ordinance with local participation through district hearings. Amendment number 5 is
Question.
Article 4, Powers of the
Question.
Council, Section 1, subsection
Question.
C.
Robin, hold on.
Yeah.
Question.
I think you forgot Oglala District.
Oh, I'm
They
sorry.
were the first ones.
Yeah, I was
Must
gonna
have
say
went to
that.
the other
too.
page I did. Well, yeah, you guys are first too. Oglala District. I apologize for that. Yeah, I was trying to hurry and get through. Yeah, Oglala District. I'm sorry. Okay, Amendment 5, Article 4, Powers of the Council, Section 1, subsection C. The current language says to approve or veto any sale, disposition, lease, or encumbrance of tribal lands, interest in lands, and other tribal assets which may be authorized or executed by the Secretary of Interior, the Commission of Indian Affairs, or any authorized official or agency of government, provided that no tribal land shall ever be leased for a period exceeding 5 years, sold or encumbered except for governmental purposes. That's the current language. The proposed language would be to approve or veto any sale, disposition, lease, or encumbrance of tribal lands, interest in lands, or other tribal assets which may be authorized or executed by the Secretary of the Interior, the Commission of Indian Affairs, or any other authorized official or agency of government, provided that no tribal land shall ever be leased for a period exceeding 30 years for residential purposes with the option to renew not to exceed a total of 50 years, or 10 years for business only with the option to renew and not to exceed a total of 50 years, or 5 years for any other leases with the option to renew not to exceed a total of 15 years or so, or encumbered except for governmental purposes. Be it further resolved that the tribal president is hereby authorized to inform the BIA of the above described tribal council request for a secretarial election in a timely manner, and then the certification. So that is a copy of what we are hoping to get passed today. And with that said, I'm going to ask that that we could have a motion from the floor to commence a secretarial election for the this administration, and again, what I want to say with that is, we have to remember that this document, it belongs to the people, okay? Government belongs to the people. And that's what we tell them when we go out and give presentations. This document, this Constitution belongs to you, and the government belongs to you. And it's time that we get the people back involved in the government. So with that said, we're just hoping today. And the other thing we reiterate in each district is, we're not here to lobby you on these 5 amendments. In the secretarial election, you vote. That's entirely up to you. Our whole goal is just to get the secretarial election process moving so that we can fix the Constitution. So that's what we try to get out there and say. So with that said, if we could just get a motion to commence the secretarial election and have a roll call vote, we'd appreciate that.
Councilwoman Seirs.
Yeah, with that, Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve these amendments because it's something that we need to give our people that chance to vote on these changes, and we shouldn't be afraid of it. We should allow our people to have a voice. But I'll make that motion, and I'm sure Robin said that there will be training. We're taking this out to the people to explain each amendment. So when it's time to vote, they'll know exactly what they're voting for. So that's my motion, is to approve.
Okay, second by Councilman Kelly, and I believe Councilman Jumping Eagle had a question.
Yeah, real quick. I don't think any of us are afraid of constitutional amendments, but Robin, when you read social media, all this and that, you hear people talking about educational requirements. How come that wasn't included? Or, I heard you say earlier that, 2 years, you can't get nothing done. It's a short time. How come you guys didn't do 4 years? I mean, there's a lot of more amendments that could have been in here. And you see, you said this is brought forth by the elders, which is good. But what about the age group from 18 to elder age that don't have a voice in this? Did you guys reach out to them also? Yeah, I'm all in favor of constitutional reform, but that's just a question. Is this what you guys wanted, or did you put it out for the people because I see that. You see a lot of people, and I know you probably did too, Robin, about educational requirements to run for council or 4-year terms. Why just these 5? Is there a way you guys can include a couple more like that?
Can I talk now? You done, Ryan? Okay, yeah, you're right. And the reason that we chose 5 is because it was a lesson learned from what we did before. First of all, we have to get people's feet wet, so to speak, so that they understand secretarial election. And we're out there talking to people. I go to the fitness center. I've been talking. We have demographics. We know how many people turned 18 on enrollment. We're talking to the younger generation. We have a population of 13,000 people out there that are 25 years old that know nothing about secretarial election. They know nothing about our Constitution, and they're the ones, they're a voting population themselves, Ryan, and we are trying to reach them. And we are going district to district. We're trying to educate them. But to answer your question is, we decided to start out small. This isn't the only secretarial election we can have. After these 5, we can do another 5, and then another 5, and then another 5. And we can do each one, but we wanted to start out small so that we could give our people the opportunity to learn the process of secretarial election. And yes, you're right. You know, we've heard staggered terms, we've heard term limits, we've heard age. You know, we've even had some veterans approach us and they want to know if a felon can run for council. And, you know, the Constitution is silent on that. Now, I don't know if there's something in the code that prevents them. So we're getting a whole bunch of questions from a lot of people. And again, Ryan, you know, we chose the three because we were trying to think of three game changers that would really make the biggest difference in our tribe. And right now, I'm going to say this respectfully, guys, there's a lot of hurting people out there, you know, and it looks like our our finances are drying up, and, you know, and smaller government, the Voices of the Elders believes that smaller government, you could accomplish more in a 2-year term too. So the three that we selected were voted on by over 100 people out at the casino. So that's why we just started out with these three, and then we afforded the Law and Order Committee the courtesy of bringing two forward, and they brought their two forward. So let's just put these out there for a vote. And again, we can have, this is just phase one. You know, guys, we're in this for the long run. The Voices for the Elders, we want to see this Constitution, this living document changed, and we want to be part of that change, you know? So with that said, you know, these first 5 amendments are just a starting point for us. You know, there's a lot of things in there that need to be revised and updated. And so it's our hope to work on another 5 after this. Like I said, this is just phase 1. And all we're asking is to let the people vote, you know, give the people the chance to decide. Thank you.
Councilman Weston.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank the Voices of the Elders for coming, and they did present this at the Law and Order Committee too. And we basically advised them to bring their stuff with the lawyers like they said. My question to the Voices of the Elders is, I think you kind of mentioned it. How many people have you reached out to? Because the elder group that I deal with in Oglala has never even been presented any of this, you know, so I know that there's going to be some things like that in every district, you know, that there's going to be another elderly group, you know, so I'm wondering if you guys are able to touch base with every single one of them, if you guys want to be recognized to present what you're presenting and, you know, get that population to agree with you, you know, for bringing this stuff forward.
Trying. Right now, I'm new on here, and I did try to put us on a district council, but it was on a weekend, and I couldn't get myself on that agenda, so I am trying for our district. I did reach out to a lot of them, a lot of phone calls were made. But one thing, 4 o'clock, we were on a Keeley station on 4 o'clock. We have the wrong time because I've been trying to get a feedback. Nobody listens to us at 4 o'clock. So we need to change that or do something, because I couldn't find anybody that listened to us to get a feedback. So I am trying, and I will try harder.
Right. So how many districts have you gone and presented this to as far as general population and their elders?
Okay, since we started in March 20 of 24, we've been to that's why I wish Marla was here. She has all the data and the meeting minutes and everything. But I think we started out in Wombly, and then Kyle, when the late Juanita Sherrick was the chair at Kyle, we went to Medicine Root. We did go to Allen, the most recent one, we went to Allen. I contacted Anna. We did have the privilege to go to the Crazy Horse Planning Commission. I went to Pine Ridge Village personally to a meeting and presented. And when we went to the Crazy Horse Planning Commission, the chair was there. We got a consensus from the district chairman that were there to move forward and support us on this. I guess our biggest obstacle is getting meeting dates and going to meetings and actually the meeting happening. So we're willing to work with anybody that wants to, be part of us or we be part of them, So we've been, in the last 2 years, we've been to probably, I'm going to say most of the districts except Oglala. And then Wakbamini, we were there last year. And then, because again, we started in March. So we're touching base with everybody, and then we have some OLC students that are taking part in our meetings. We have our meetings out at Mr. McGaw's residence every other Thursday or Thursday. And like Barb said, we have Mondays, Keeley 4 to 5. And, we have to start building a fan base for the radio program, So we've been out there. We're visible as we can. We'll come to any community. Just give us a call and we'll come out and present,
Yeah, so thank you for that answer. And I do appreciate that apology that you guys presented, because, I'm just gonna let it go. I'm just gonna acknowledge your apology. And I'm all for this too. I always have been, even though what transpired there, I still supported this. So I'll leave it at that, but thank you.
Thank you too, Mr. Weston. But real quickly, I want to say that the meetings and whatever we talk about, like on Keeley, it's all recorded. So I know there was some bad, negative stuff out there, and I don't recall that. But if any of you can, feel free to get the minutes and you can listen to it for yourself on that Keeley incident where we were accused of bashing. But so that's all I'm going to say. And again, those kind of things are going to come up. People agree to disagree, and but at the end of the day, we support you guys, we respect you guys, and today we're just thankful to be before you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston.
No, I was going to second, but you already said Dave seconded, so
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay.
But I also do want to thank the voices of elders because I do listen to them on the radio because, just to hear what they're talking about. And I do know that they do talk about a lot of the 5 amendments that they're working on. So it's good. I'm glad you're out there. I'm glad you're the districts. I think that's what needed to happen, the educational part. And I think that you're right, this is for the people. It's not about us, so I just want to thank them for coming today.
Yeah. And I just want to remind you, I'm going to let the speakers that raised their hand ask their questions, or the council that raised their hands. But let's just be brief so we can move on. Councilwoman Spotted Bear.
Thank you, President. Good afternoon, Ms. Tapio and Ms. Tawnie. I like the idea. I like the concept of doing short amendments for the constitutional reform, because it allows our people to educate and absorb the changing of our constitution. That was something that I've always addressed, that when we're going to make changes, we should all educate so our people can absorb the changes that'll affect them as a whole. However, I do agree with Councilman Jumping Eagle that, you can attest to this, I can attest to it, my colleagues can attest to this, that, when we're talking about doing better for our people, what about the need for longer terms on our local agencies, our national can attest. That's some of the concerns and some of the difficulties that we deal with are the 2-year turnarounds. We start a project, and then it's a whole new body that comes in, and it affects everything because it changes with a new agenda. And that's something that I would have liked to have seen in here. And I believe during the last time in our discussion, we've asked for longer term limits to help with any of our initiatives that we try to start, because we all know that when we come into this body, it's always trying to fix, correct, or change, or update, or amend what was started from the last, because there's no handover, there's no proper handover from the last governing body to what we pick up. So it's always just what we like to say, wojapi. And I agree with education. We all know education is needed, experience is needed, and how we speak and how we conduct ourselves, because we're not only talking to each other, but we have to talk on a national level. And that should be a requirement. I agree with that. So I don't see any of that here. I always ask for boundaries. So I'm glad that's on here. But there's some areas on here that would have really been beneficial to have seen on here when we're pushing out constitutional reform, that we know that we deal with, our challenges that we deal with in this circle. And I believe you having that experience, it would have helped including that in here. Thank you.
Councilman Randall.
All right, well, thank you. Acknowledge your effort and work in doing this. We've been interacting with the other society for 500 years, and the college has been here 50 plus years. So at some point, we got to acknowledge the education of our people. And all of us have said one more time than another that our youth have to leave because they're not acknowledged and they get their degrees. So I wish that component was part of this this outfit here, this presentation here. And the one council person, the world's gotten very complicated, and it's really difficult for one person to keep up. So I see nothing wrong with the two representatives right now. And that's my short comments here.
Councilman Stanley Soldier.
It's all good conversation, and I enjoy conversation just like the next person. But I think what we're stalling on is the conversation has got to be out there. The people have to decide if they want this conversation to go on. It isn't for us to sit here and say, no, let's not do this, because they won't hear what's being said. Let them make that decision if they want a secretarial vote. I think all they're asking is for us to send it out so the people can hear different ideas. And there's nothing wrong with that. Then the ideas can come forward after the amendments are made. But right now, we're just dragging our feet for whatever reason. But I would like to see it go out there and see where it ends up. And my best wishes for this constitutional reform. Thank you.
Yeah, we got a motion and second, but we got three more speakers. I'm going to let talk. If you could be brief. Little White Man, Councilman Little White Man.
Okay, I just wanted to ask if we could take this back to our district to see how they want us to vote on it, because we feel that there is a group that wasn't heard. So, that's all I wanted to ask, to see if we can do that first before we make a vote on this.
Councilman Puyer.
I see one of the problems in here is that, what I see is that I think boundary lines need to be established before instead of afterwards. Because at the present time, the Supreme Court ruling, there is no boundary lines. That just comes from the Supreme Court. And we all know the issue between Pine Ridge and Wakpamani. And we know the issues on these residents. So really, if I wanted to, or any one of us, I could run for Pass Creek or whatever because of the Supreme Court decision of no boundary lines. That's going to be an issue, especially if it goes down to one rep. You could move around. And running those districts. So I think the boundary line issue has to come out before you can say what district they're from, because the way the Supreme Court ruled, there's no boundary lines. That's my opinion. I like Bo's idea. This needs to go back to the districts. For us, they're always saying, take it back to the district for opinion, but we're not given a chance here. They want us to vote on it.
Councilwoman Halverson.
Thank you. Respect for our elders is a cultural thing that we honor and we value our elders' wisdom that they provide to our people. And I've seen these voices of the elders, and they've spoken, and they're here today asking for our support. And as a representative for Pass Creek District, I'll honor that request. I know that they've come to our district so that our people can also have a voice and a vote in the secretarial amendment, and not just us as council representatives. I know that it's tough because a lot of these amendments change our positions as representatives down to one. But, this is the amendments that they brought forward. And these are the amendments that I feel like we need to honor and listen to them. We always talk about respect for our elders, respect for our youth. And they're here today asking for their voices to also be heard with these secretarial amendments to be approval for our people out there. Change is always hard, but we got to believe that our people out there, they also have a voice in what they have with bringing this forth. They've been on Keeley Radio. They've been at districts to districts. Some of these districts are asking them to come back to the districts. It's going to, it just sending them into more time. And as elders, we value their time because their time is precious and limited for what they offer here for our tribe. And I know they've come to Finance Committee in the past, and we've offered support of, when they host meetings to at least feed our elders, do all we can to support them. Because at the end of the day, they hold the knowledge, they hold the wisdom for our younger generations to listen. And so, I support them coming here today, and I thank them for coming here today. I think of my auntie Emma, who would have been with them today, asking also for the support in these amendments. Amendments like giving the people a chance to select a treasurer, select a secretary, select a fifth member, select along with the president and the vice president. Changes like that need to come forth. And there's more changes that can come forth with, the 4-year terms or other items that can be listed. But I believe, in my heart, that these are good changes to bring forth for our people to have their voice be a vote. Thank you.
Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston.
Just briefly, when they came to us at the Law and Order Committee, they only came with 3 amendments. That's the only amendments they wanted to do. But we're the ones through Land Committee, through Law and Order Committee, requested that they add these other 2 on, right? So they came and they did that. And Rayanne told us we had a deadline. We needed to let them know by a certain time. So these are the 2 amendments that they are taking on, the last 2 on the land issue with the leases. So we're the ones that asked for that. But they were only going to go forward with the 3 amendments. And it's really sad to say, and I think we all say it in this circle sometimes, is that we don't have district meetings in our districts. Or we don't have executive boards that are conducting district meetings. We say that in the circle. But to hear Ms. Tapio tell us that they have met with the Crazy Horse Planning, those are all your 9 district chairs and chairwomen that are meeting. So I really believe that they've gone through all of the districts, and I'm sure they're going to keep educating the districts, keep going out there. And I know they're going to keep, being on the radio because that's where it needs to be. But I think we are the ones that added the last 2 amendments on there. They didn't add those on there, we did. So I just wanted to clarify that. And the only 3 were the only top 3 you guys were going to run with. So I just wanted to let the council know that. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion on it. We're gonna run it now. Secretary, call for the vote.
Chairman. Okay, real quick. So while we're sitting here, we're getting texts from elders in our communities that say they never had a voice in this. So, I want to make a motion to table and like Bo said, take it back to our district at a meeting. And if they feel comfortable with 1 representative, with that amendment, then we're okay with that. We'll bring back what the district says. So I'm gonna make a motion to table and take it back to the district.
Here we go again. All right. So we got a motion to table, second by Councilman Puyer. And second by Councilman Puyer. So with that being said, let's have a decision by next council meeting that you take this back to your districts and get a decision made so we can move on. So with that, call for the vote.
For the record and clarification, this is a motion to table the proposed resolution. Jeremy Rosales,
No.
B. Frandl,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Yeah, no.
Blaine Little Thunder,
No. Yeah.
Troy Little,
No.
David Puyer, David Kelly,
No.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
No.
Norman Standing Soldier,
No.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
I haven't decided yet. Not voting.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
No.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Yeah.
Donroy Gosper,
No.
James Cross,
Oh.
George Dreamer Jr.,
No.
Anna Halverson,
No.
Four yes, 13 no, 1 not voting. Motion failed. So we'll run the motion to approve. We have a first and second on that. Secretary, call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
B. Frandl,
No.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Huh.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yeah.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Puyer, David Kelly,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
No.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
No.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bold Little White Man,
No.
Jackie Sears,
Oh, huh.
Donroy Gosper,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Junior,
Yes.
Anna Halverson.
Yes.
Thirteen yes, 5 no, motion carried.
Can we make a closing comment?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, council. And I just want to say that, we're willing to come to any district. You can line it up. And you know what? The thing we need to remember, guys, is that people can vote yes or no. So who's to say these 5 amendments are all going to pass? We need to be more objective too when we look at these, because there's always a good possibility none of them will pass. But all we're asking is to give the people back their voice to vote. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. If you want us, we'll be in contact with your district chairs. And Mr. Jumping Eagle, for your information, we did meet with Pauletta. And again, when the late Juanita was here, we went to Kyle too, but we'll be back. So if any of you have anything you want us to do in your community, come to your communities, or you want us to do something, we're more than happy to. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Iha wopila e chichap. Dona ya hiu na dona na una kagana isam na Oglala district. I've called a lot of you and call me back. I have all given you my phone number already. Wopila thanka.
Oh, Hopila. Okay, so we're going to jump right into the 2/3. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Finance Committee. Chair.
Thank you, President. Give me 1 second while I pull the resolutions up.
Yep, no problem.
Are we on break?
Yes, it's all yours.
Okay. Okay, the Finance Committee has 2/3 items. Ordinance of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and Unincorporated Tribe. Ordinance of the Oglala Sioux Tribe of the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving the creation of a marijuana tax payment verification and transfer policy and procedure. Oh, good. Thank you. Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe is a sovereign tribal nation that has entered into treaties of the supreme law of the land with the United States government pursuant to the U.S. Constitution, Article 6, and is a signatory to the Treaty of Fort Laramie of 1851, 1 Stat 749, September 17, 1851, and the Treaty of Fort Laramie of 1868, 15 Stat 635, April 29th, 1868, and continues the nation-to-nation relationship with the federal government. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe organized under Section 16 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, 25 USC, subsection 5123, by adopting a federally approved constitution and bylaws, and under Article 3 of the Tribal Constitution, the Oglala Sioux Tribe Council is the governing body of the tribe. And whereas Article 4, Sections 1F, 1K, 1M, and 1W empower the tribal council to manage the economic affairs of the tribe, protect and preserve the property of the tribe, adopt laws governing the conduct of persons on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and adopt laws protecting and promoting the health and general welfare of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and its membership. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe receives significant cash funds in relation to the marijuana tax revenue. And whereas a clear policy and protocol for the receipt and safekeeping of those funds until they are deposited in the bank would best protect the assets of the tribe. And whereas the Finance Committee reviewed the attached policy and procedures on August 21, 2025, and recommends approval, now therefore be it ordained that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby approves the attached marijuana tax payment verification and transfer policy and procedures. Certification motion.
Second. Yeah.
Okay, for the record, I do have motion made by Jillian Spotted Bear, seconded by Jackie Sears. Just waiting for the chair to give me permission to call vote.
This is extra.
Yeah.
Motion by Jillian, second by Jack.
Okay, Secretary, call for a vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Keith Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Good.
Troy Little, David Poyer,
Yes.
David Kelly,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Abstain.
17 yes, 1 abstain, motion carried.
Thank you, President. Our second item is ordinance of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and unincorporated tribe. Ordinance of the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving the creation of a standalone department to manage employee loans and to be under the supervision of the Chief of Staff. Whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe is a sovereign tribal nation that has entered into treaties as the supreme law of the land with the United States government pursuant to the U.S. Constitution, Article 6, and is a signatory to the Treaty of Fort Laramie of 1851, 1 Stat 749, September 17th, 1851, and the Treaty of Fort Laramie of 1868, 15 Stats 635, April 29th, 1868. And continues the nation-to-nation relationship with the federal government. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe, organized under Section 16 of the Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, 25 USC, subsection 5123, by adopting a federally approved constitution and bylaws, and under Article 3 of the Tribal Constitution, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council is the governing body of the tribe. And whereas Article 4, Sections 1F, 1K, 1M, and 1W empower the tribal council to manage the economic affairs of the tribe, protect and preserve the property of the tribe, adopt laws governing the conduct of persons on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and adopt laws protecting and promoting the health and general welfare of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and its membership. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe established a revolving loan program and adopted policies and procedures for the loan program pursuant to ordinance number 18-16. And whereas the revolving loan program was initially placed under the responsibility of the Revenue Department. And whereas, given the scope of the revolving loan program, the program would be best serving by being handled under its own department. And whereas the Grants Committee reviewed job descriptions for the positions in the proposed loan program and approved them on August 20th, 2025. And whereas the Finance Committee reviewed the job descriptions for Loan Department Director herein attached on August 21, 2025, and recommends approval. And whereas the Finance Committee reviewed the amendments to the job description for the loan assistant on August 21, 2025, and recommends the amendments to the loan assistant job description herein attached. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby approves the formation of a standalone program to manage the revolving loan program to be under the supervision of the Chief of Staff in the chain of command. And be it further resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby approves the attached job description for loan director. And be it further resolved, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby approves the attached amended job description for loan assistant. And be it further resolved that the budget / funding for such positions shall come out of the revolving loan fund revenue. And be it further resolved that the tribal administration is hereby authorized to take all actions necessary to effectuate the implementation of the standalone loan program. Certification motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilwoman Spotted Bear, second by Councilwoman Seirs. Question?
Was there a change in the job description?
The changes are in blue.
Hey, mine's not in blue, so I don't know.
Oh,
Oh, there you are. So at the change of job description, does it get advertised?
that once approved, it'll be immediately advertised. Are you asking for the director position? Oh. The director position is a bachelor's degree requirement in accounting. Oh, okay. Oh, yes. It'll, once it's approved, then it'll be immediately advertised.
What's that?
Julian and Jackie.
Okay. So we got a first and a second. Secretary, call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall, Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Yeah.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Puyer,
Yes.
David Kelly,
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Donroy Ghost Bear,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Junior,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Yes.
Seventeen yes, one not voting, motion carried. Was that everything, Chair?
President, that's all finance has. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on, next agenda item, OST Land Committee. And I'll turn that over to the chair.
Sure. Mr. Gunn, can you read the ordinance since you drafted it?
Ordinance of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe to authorize short-term leases for the development of affordable residential housing units on vacant tribal trust lands on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. Third whereas clause, whereas Article 4, Sections 1F, 1K, 1M, and 1W of the Tribal Constitution empower the Tribal Council to manage the economic affairs of the tribe, protect and preserve the property of the tribe, adopt laws governing the conduct of persons on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and adopt laws protecting and promoting the health and general welfare of the tribe and its members. And whereas Article 10, Section 3 of the Tribal Constitution authorizes the Tribal Council to lease tribal lands with the approval of the Secretary of the Interior. And whereas there is a shortage of affordable residential housing units on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and whereas at the same time, many units of tribal trust land on the reservation, strike the word land, are vacant and unused. And whereas on August 25th, 2025, the Land and Natural Resources Committee of the Tribal Council recommended the adoption of this ordinance to authorize short-term leases of vacant tribal trust lands for the development of affordable residential housing on those lands. And whereas having considered the matter, the Tribal Council has determined that the ordinance proposed by the Land and Natural Resource Committee is in the best interest of the tribe and its members now. Therefore, be it ordained that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby authorizes the issuance of leases for vacant tribal trust lands on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation for the purpose of constructing affordable residential housing units on those lands, subject to the following conditions. 1, all leases issued pursuant to this ordinance shall be approved by resolution of the Tribal Council and shall be subject to approval of the Secretary of the Interior or his or her designee, provided that applications for leases shall be made to the Oglala Sioux Tribe Land Office on a form to be prescribed by that office and presented to and approved by the Land and Natural Resources Committee of the Tribal Council before presentation to the full Tribal Council for final approval. 2, in the leasing of tribal trust lands pursuant to this ordinance, preference shall be given first to Indian communities or cooperative associations, and second, to individual Indians who are members of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. 3, no community, association, entity, or person may obtain a lease of tribal trust lands pursuant to this ordinance without first demonstrating to the satisfaction of the Tribal Council the ability to construct quality, affordable housing on that land. 4, no community, association, entity, or person may obtain more than 4 leases of tribal trust lands for a maximum of 4 housing units pursuant to this ordinance at one time. 5, all leases issued pursuant to this ordinance shall be for a term of 48 months or less, and all such leases shall be subject to immediate revocation by operation of law and without further notice if construction does not commence within 120 days of issuance of the lease. 6, all housing units constructed on tribal trust lands leased pursuant to this ordinance shall be subject to inspection by a professional housing inspector who shall prepare a written inspection report at lessee's expense and approval by the Tribal Council, and shall be subject to approval by the Tribal Council. And all housing shall meet all applicable building standards, and any housing that is found to be out of compliance with the applicable building standards or otherwise unsafe or unfit for human habitation shall be fixed or demolished at the lessee's expense. 7, a housing unit that is constructed on tribal trust lands leased pursuant to this ordinance may be purchased only by an Indian or Indians who are members of the Oglala Sioux tribe and who are eligible and approved for a home site assignment on the lands on which the housing unit is constructed. And 8, at the expiration of any lease issued pursuant to this ordinance, if a housing unit constructed on tribal trust land that has been leased pursuant to this ordinance has not been purchased by an Indian or Indians who are members of the Oglala Sioux tribe, ownership of the housing unit shall automatically revert by operation of law and without further notice to the Oglala Sioux tribe. Certification.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Poyer. Second by Councilman Little. Call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Good.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Poyer,
Yes.
David Kelly,
No.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Donner Ghost Bear,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Streamer Junior,
Yes. Yes.
Anna Halverson.
Yes.
Seventeen yes, 1 no, motion carried.
Thank you. Mr. Gunn, could you read the next one on THPO?
Ordinance of the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe amending ordinance number 24-11 to place the Oglala Sioux Tribe's Cultural Affairs Historic Preservation Office, also known as Tribal Historic Preservation Office, under the supervision of the Chief of Staff of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Third, whereas Article 4, Section 1F, 1K, 1M, and 1W of the Tribal Constitution empower the tribe to manage the economic affairs of the tribe, protect and preserve the property of the tribe, adopt laws governing the conduct of persons on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and adopt laws protecting and promoting the health and general welfare of the Oglala Sioux tribe and its membership. And whereas additionally, the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council, pursuant to the Constitution of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, Article 4, Sections 1M and 1N, is empowered to protect and preserve the property, wildlife, and natural resources of the tribe, and to regulate the conduct of trade and the use and disposition of property upon the reservation, and to regulate, preserve, and strengthen native arts, crafts, culture, and the Lakota language. And whereas the Tribal Council has established a Cultural Affairs Historic Preservation Office, also known as the Tribal Historic Preservation Office, and whereas the Tribal Council by Ordinance number 24-11 placed the responsibility of the Tribal Historic Preservation Office with the 5th member's office until a qualified applicant could fill the role of the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe Land and Natural Resources Committee is a standing committee of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council, which did meet with a quorum present to conduct business on August 25, 2025, and did recommend adoption of this ordinance and referred the same for presentation to the Tribal Council for final action now. Therefore, be it ordained that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby place the supervision and direction of the Cultural Affairs Historic Preservation Office, also known as the Tribal Historic Preservation Office, under the Chief of Staff of the Oglala Sioux Tribe. Certification.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Poyer,
Second.
second by Councilwoman Little Hawk Weston. All for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Poyer,
Yes.
David Kelly,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear.
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Brian Jumping Eagle Senior, Lyle Weston, Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
John Roy Ghost Bear,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Junior,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Sixteen yes, two not voting, motion carried.
Thank you. Mr. Gunyer, get the last resolution.
Resolution of the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe appointing,
Question,
Question.
before we run the resolution, I think some of us have questions on this.
Okay,
I know,
And I
We-
think that, you know, what we kind of dealt with yesterday, I don't believe that, some of us actually don't believe we should do that again. So
Okay.
I don't know, Davey, if we want to table this and send it back to land, but, and to maybe just to advertise the
Well,
position.
what's gonna happen, and it's not in here, we need to add it in here. This is a temporary appointment, we're temporary appointed, but we need in the resolution that he's temporary, but personnel has to advertise it. It's not in here, it's in the resolution, so once we pass it, because he's gonna be temporarily,
We should
until
even do
filled.
that.
I can't hear you, what you,
Yeah, we're getting calls on it too. And I think we should just advertise it, let it go through the right process, and then they can apply for it. And I'm sure, you know, the applicant's pretty well qualified, he can apply. And then let it run that course, because I don't think we should do the mistake like we did with
Right, I
Mr.
understand,
Patton. When council appointed, it really messed up a lot of things because we got to change org charts, we got to change all this other stuff. So I think some of us want to just either send it back to land and just advertise it.
but I think the way it works is that the resolution is read, then it's tabled, and it's not officially read yet for the record, right? Am I right or wrong?
Well, I think you could withdraw it until we take it back to land.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make, whatever,
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll motion to table and forward back to land committee.
okay, motion to table by Councilman Little Hawk Weston, second.
I have a question before we do that. So what happens to
Table,
our checks that he has to
What
do the field checks? So what this, because this is the temporary appointment.
Okay, go ahead, Jack.
Chair, can I answer that?
go ahead real quick, but we have a
When-
second on it.
When we pass the other, the one prior, it gives that authority over to, with the chief of staff, and the chief of staff can temporarily appoint somebody.
Yeah.
So I think that that's the route we need to take until they advertise
And
and
fill it.
fill it.
Yeah, we shouldn't do it. We just don't want to do it as a council. But like Jackie said, you know, because we just passed the other one to put this position under the chief of staff. So now it's under the chief of staff. So now that chief of staff can temporarily appoint someone, but he should always remember that he's got to do a background check and a drug test. So that has to be known. I'm sure John's listening. So you make sure that that happens. That's kind of what some of the council want. And so I just need to reiterate that. So we can leave it like that, Davy.
Secretary, call for the vote.
Okay, and this is just for clarification for the record, this is for tabling the proposed resolution for the appointment of the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. Jeremy Rosales,
No.
Beef Randall,
You could use your mic for the listening audience. It'd be
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ha,
Blaine Little Thunder,
No.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Puyer,
No.
David Kelly,
yes.
Julian Spotted Bear.
Yeah.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yeah.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
No.
No.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man, Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Don Gosper,
Yes.
James Cross,
Oh.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Nine yes, 8 no, 1 not voting. Motion carried.
Thank you. That's all we have from Land Committee.
Okay, moving right along, we'll move down to EB&D Committee. I'll turn it over to the chair.
Thank you, Chair. I've been asked to read the resolutions. I actually don't have them. Oh, here they are. First, I have the resolution of the Tribal Council, the Oglala Sioux Tribe appointing Tawnie Zimiga and Marcus Palmier to serve as co-managers and thereby the co-CEOs of the Oglala Lakota Telecommunications LLC on a temporary basis. I'm going to skip down to the fourth whereas Randall Hughes has been serving as the manager and thereby the CEO of Oglala Lakota Telecommunications LLC under an Intergovernmental Personnel Act agreement between the Indian Health Services and the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe has received notice from the IHS that Mr. Hughes will transition to a permanent federal appointment with the Indian Health Services in Rapid City, South Dakota, effective August 8, 2025, as the aforementioned IPA agreement terminates on that date. And whereas pursuant to Section 4.3C of the OLT LLC operating agreement, the OLT LLC Board of Directors, which is currently the Economic and Business Development Committee, met on August 8, 2025, and voted to recommend that Tawnie Zimiga and Marcus Palmier replace Randall Hughes as co-managers of OLT LLC on a temporary basis, which per the OLT LLC operating agreement would make them co-CEOs of OLT LLC on a temporary basis. Whereas pursuant to Section 4.3C of the OLT LLC operating agreement, the Economic and Business Development Committee made a motion on August 8, 2025 to approve the OLT LLC Board of Directors recommendation and refer this recommendation to the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council agrees with recommendations of the Economic and Business Development Committee and appoints on a temporary basis Tawnie Zimiga and Marcus Palmier as co-managers of Oglala Lakota Telecommunications LLC, which per the OLT LLC operating agreement makes them co-CEOs of Oglala Lakota Telecommunications LLC on a temporary basis. Certification motion.
Motion by Councilman Rosales, second by Councilman Cross. Call for the vote.
Chair. Over here. Quick question. How long is the temporary appointment?
I think Tawnie is Tawnie here? how long, how is the board going? Once the board is passed, I think there might have to be she can answer that, Ms. Zimica.
Hello. Once the board is put in place, the board can advertise. So however long that takes.
Hell, that could be forever. I'm just looking for a timeline. Two weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 12 months. I'm just looking for a timeline.
Probably the next resolution after this deals with the board. So I'm assuming 2 to 4 months, a short term.
Thank you.
Councilman Jumping Eagle.
Just kind of the same as the last vote that got tabled of appointing a position by the council. Guess that's for Steve. Steve?
Is the question whether the council has the authority to do it?
Well, we just tabled an appointment, this last motion, the last item, and now, is this the same thing? We're appointing this one and there's no questions asked or there's no tabling going on or nothing? What's the difference? What's the difference?
This one is a little bit unique because OLT is an LLC. And under the articles, the Economic and Business Development Committee is the board until board members are put in place. You had a manager and CEO who was Mr. Randall Hughes. He's no longer in that position, so you have a vacancy. And I think the LLC's board, which is the E&BD Committee, recommended putting these two individuals in until position can be advertised and filled. So it is a little bit different, whereas the THPO is under the supervision of the Chief of Staff. This is really just a standalone LLC that needs a manager.
Okay, thank you.
Secretary, call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Ah,
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Poyer,
No.
David Kelly,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
No.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Donroy Gosper,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Seventeen yes, one not voting, motion carried.
So Chair,
Yes,
on this next issue, Chris is on his way, so we could hold off on that, Vice Chair, until he gets here.
14. 14 and 2. Okay, we got a clarification on that last vote. It's 15 yes, 2 no, 1 not voting. Motion carried. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Moving on to the third item. Resolution of the Tribal Council, Oglala Sioux Tribe approving the selection of Dustin Twiss, Dwight Weston, and Petra Wilson to the Oglala Lakota Telecommunications LLC Board of Directors. Again, I'm going to skip to the fourth whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe formed the Oglala Lakota Telecommunications LLC on October 20th, 2022 as a limited liability company wholly owned by the Oglala Sioux Tribe and adopted an operating agreement to govern the operations of the company. And whereas Article 4, Section 4.6 of the operating agreement provides that a board of directors shall exercise oversight over the company on behalf of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council. The board of directors shall provide advice, guidance, and direction to the manager and company staff regarding the best interest of the Oglala Sioux Tribe and its citizens. The board of directors shall report to the Economic and Business Development Committee, which exercises oversight over the company. Whereas Article 4, Section 4.8 provides that the board of directors shall be composed of the chairperson of the Economic and Business Development Committee serving as an ex officio director of the 3 persons appointed by the Economic and Business Committee to serve 2-year terms. Whereas the Economic and Business Development Committee met on August 15th, 2025 and selected Dustin Twiss, Dwight Weston, and Petra Wilson, all members of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, to serve 2-year terms on the board of directors of the OLT LLC and recommends approval by the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby approves the selection of Dustin Twiss, Dwight Weston, and Petra Wilson, all members of Oglala Sioux Tribe, to the OLT LLC Board of Directors to serve 2-year terms. Certification motion.
Motion by Councilman Rosales, second by Councilman Seirs and Councilman Puyer.
Chair, I wasn't at the EB&D when it's appointed. So when does the 2 years start? Once we pass this, or? I think we should have a beginning date and an ending date.
I don't know if we discussed that, Davey, it was just, but I agree that we do need to come up with a starting date, so maybe as of today, because it's past today, so.
I think it should be named in here then, if that's what we're gonna say, because some, like the Parks Board, hell, they're still going and it's past their term over. So we need to put something in here.
We could just, at the end of the last, be it resolved, say, comma, which shall commence on the date of enactment of this resolution.
Good with that? Okay, with the amendment? Go ahead. Call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston,
Abstain.
Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Yes.
David Puyer, David Kelly,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Abstain.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Don Gosper,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
15 yes, 2 abstain, 1 not voting, motion carried.
Thank you, Chair. My fourth item here, resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe approving a contract with Ann Eagle Bull AEB Consulting to complete a comprehensive economic development strategy on behalf of the Oglala Sioux Tribe on or before September 30th, 2025. As before, I'm going to skip to the fourth whereas. Whereas the tribe was awarded the funding from the U.S. Department of Commerce to complete a comprehensive economic development strategy on or before September 30th, 2025. And whereas on August 22nd, 2025, the Economic and Business Development Committee recommended that the tribe enter a contract with Ann Eagle Bull AEB Consulting to complete the CEDS on or before September 30th, 2025, and to refer the contract to the Tribal Council for approval. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby approves a contract with Ann Eagle Bull AEB Consulting to complete a comprehensive economic development strategy on behalf of the Oglala Sioux Tribe on or before September 30th, 2025. Be it further resolved that the total compensation to be paid to Ann Eagle Bull AEB Consulting under the contract is $50,000, and it shall be paid from the grant awarded to the tribe by the U.S. Department of Commerce. It has the grant number in there. Do I need to read that in there, Mr. Gunn?
I think it's fine. You can.
I can. Grant number ED22DEN 30200045. And be it further resolved that the tribal president, or in his absence, the tribal vice president, is authorized to and directed to sign on the contract on behalf of the tribe. Certification motion.
Motion by Councilman Rosales, second by Councilwoman Spotted Bear. Call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yeah.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Troy Little,
Abstain.
David Poyer, David Kelly,
No.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Stunning Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior, Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston, Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Donroy Ghost Bear, James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Thirteen yes, 1 no, 1 abstain, 3 not voting, motion carried.
Thank you, Chair.
Chair, Chris, he said he's outside Oglala. Smoke break.
Okay.
What's that?
We can
Okay.
keep going.
Okay, moving on to my fifth item here. Ordinance of the Tribal Council, the Oglala Sioux Tribe enacting laws regulating employment at the Prairie Wind Casino. Now skipping to the fourth whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe has established the Prairie Wind Casino as an economic enterprise wholly owned by the tribe, and whereas on August 22nd, 2025, the Economic and Business Development Committee of the Tribal Council recommended adoption of this ordinance to establish laws regulating employment at the Prairie Wind Casino. And whereas having considered the matter, the Tribal Council agrees with the recommendation of the Economic and Business Development Committee and finds that enactment of this ordinance is in the best interest of the tribe and its members. Now therefore be it ordained that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby enacts the following laws regulating employment at the Prairie Wind Casino. 1, there shall be no salaried employees at the Prairie Wind Casino. All employees shall be paid on an hourly basis. 2, all employees of the Prairie Wind Casino must come to work at the Prairie Wind Casino and clock in at the beginning of their shifts or work days and clock out at the end of their shifts or work days. 3, until further notice from the tribal council, the general manager of the Prairie Wind Casino shall not approve overtime work for any employee of the casino. 4, until further notice from the tribal council, the general manager of the Prairie Wind Casino shall not hire any new employees at the casino. Be it further ordained that these laws and regulations shall take effective immediately. Certification. Motion.
Motion by Councilman Rosales. Second by Councilman Cross, Councilman Standing Soldier. Call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
Troy Little, David Poyer,
Yes.
David Kelly,
Abstain.
Julian Spotted Bear. Yes. Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
No.
Wyatt Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
No.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Donner Ghost Bear,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr.,
Yes.
Anna Halverson,
Thirteen yes, 2 no, 2 abstain, 1 not voting. Motion carried.
Thank you, Chair. May I request the secretary read this 6th item here?
I had it, I'll read it for him, but I don't have it.
If it's okay with you, I'll read it. Resolution of the Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe authorizing government-to-government consultation with the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission concerning the Dewy Burdock in situ uranium recovery project. Skipping, whereas the 5th member of the tribe received a letter dated April 23, 2025 from the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, NRC, concerning a proposed government-to-government meeting between the NRC and the Oglala Sioux Tribe regarding the NRC's review of PowerTech USA, Inc.'s license renewal application for the Dewy Burdock uranium recovery project, docket number 40-9075. And whereas in its letter, the NRC stated that it, quote, appreciates the opportunity to engage in government-to-government dialogue, end quote, and it is, quote, honored by the opportunity to engage with and receive feedback from the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council and provide a presentation regarding the NRC staff's review of the license renewal application for the Dewy Burdock uranium recovery project, end quote. And whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe has significant cultural, historical, and spiritual ties to the lands within and surrounding the proposed Dewy Burdock project area, this region contains numerous sites of cultural importance, including traditional cultural properties, sacred sites, burial grounds, and areas significant to our tribal history and ongoing cultural practices. And the tribe has treaty reserved rights and interests in these lands that must be considered in the federal undertaking review process. And whereas on August 22, 2025, the Economic and Business Development Committee of the Tribal Council recommended adoption of this resolution to establish the parameters for formal government-to-government consultation with the NRC and to call for a special meeting of the Tribal Council pursuant to Ordinance number 11-10, June 7, 2011, at which the tribe, through the Tribal Council, can engage in such government-to-government consultation with the NRC. Now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council hereby authorizes formal government-to-government consultation with the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, NRC, concerning the Dewy Burdock in situ uranium recovery project, docket number 40-9075, PowerTech USA Inc.'s license renewal application and NRC license application materials for license SUA-160, subject to the following conditions. 1, the tribal secretary is delegated authority in consultation with the tribal president and the NRC to schedule a special meeting of the tribal council at which the tribe, through the tribal council, can engage in formal government-to-government consultation with the NRC pursuant to ordinance number 11-10, June 7, 2011. 2, the tribe requests the following NRC staff attend this government-to-government consultation meeting. Project manager for the Dewy Burdock license application review, cultural resources specialist or archaeologist, NEPA compliance staff, legal counsel familiar with tribal consultation requirements, and senior management representative or representatives with decision-making authority. 3, prior to the government-to-government consultation meeting, the tribe requests that NRC provide current project plans and maps showing the full area of potential effects, cultural resources survey reports and findings, preliminary assessment of potential effects on historic properties, proposed mitigation measures or treatment plans, and a timeline for the Section 106 review process. 4, prior to the government-to-government consultation meeting, the tribe asked the NRC's technical staff and attorneys, asked that the NRC's technical staff and attorneys meet and confer via telephone, video, teleconference, or otherwise with the tribe's technical staff and attorneys to define the issues that are subject to the government-to-government consultation, including how the proposed governmental undertaking or activity affects the tribe's Aboriginal, treaty, statutory, or other interests. And these pre-consultation meetings and conferences shall encompass the potential effects of the proposed uranium mining operation on historic properties of cultural and religious significance to the Oglala Sioux tribe, review of the propriety of the use of a programmatic agreement, PA, for this proposed undertaking, review of the area of potential effects, APE, as defined by the NRC, and discussion of measures to avoid, minimize, or mitigate adverse effects to historic properties. 5, prior to the government-to-government consultation meeting, the tribe's technical staff and attorneys shall brief the tribal council on the issues that are subject to consultation with recommendations and opinions at a special meeting of the tribal council, and the tribal secretary is delegated authority in consultation with the tribal president to schedule such a special meeting of the tribal council certification.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Rosales, second by Councilman Little Hawk. Question?
Just kind of a comment for, is that land committee that's part of? So I think, at some point, I think we need to sit down with our, bomb and range, program as well, because there's potential cuts that can be coming from the Department of Defense and its funding agency. And I don't think that they've actually cleared the entire area of land that they've taken and used for the bombing range. And rather than them just, arbitrarily cutting or whatever, I think they need to come in and have a sit down with us as well, similar to this, before they even think about cutting that program, because we still find unexploded ordnances that up to this day in that area. So land committee, if you could maybe make that one of the projects next. Thank you.
Okay, Secretary, call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder, Troy Little,
Yes.
David Poyer. David Poyer. David Kelly,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Don Ragosper,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr., Anna Halverson, no.
15 yes, 3 not voting, motion carried. Yeah, we got a comment here. Go ahead.
Just a brief announcement, council, since we're on the topic of mining and the effects on the tribe's rights and interests. The tribe did intervene in the Craven Canyon project. That is an application for a state license, so it's a state administrative proceeding. And Mr. Reno Red Cloud and I were in Pier last week for the first hearing, which was a procedural preliminary hearing. I can report to the council that he did a terrific job representing the tribe and its interests. And the result of that meeting was the establishment of a scheduling order. And it looks like we will complete the discovery phase of the case this year, and that the hearing will be held sometime in 2026. There's many parties requested that the hearing be held at Pine Ridge or in Hot Springs or in Rapid City, but for the time being, the hearing officer's decision is to hold the hearing in Pier. I would still recommend that once we know what the hearing date is, that as many of you as possible go to that hearing, because it is important with the impact on tribal interests. One other very brief litigation update. This came up to one of the committees, but on September 15, the U.S. District Court will hold a hearing in a case between a tribal member and Mazaska, which is a CDFI lending entity on the reservation. That's an important jurisdictional case. The tribe filed an amicus brief to defend the tribe's jurisdiction and the jurisdiction of its tribal courts over loans that are made on the reservation and loans that touch and concern trust land. That hearing is on September 15 at 9 o'clock in the U.S. Federal Court building in Rapid City. And I encourage you, as many of you as can, attend that hearing to do so, because that will be the time where the federal judge will hear argument on the motion to dismiss that case and to preserve the tribe's authority. That's September 15, 9 o'clock in the morning at the federal building, federal courthouse in Rapid City.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Chair. Our last 2/3 is Chris O'Brien, and the committee took action to have you come to council, give a report on the multi-purpose buildings.
Okay.
So turn it over to you.
All right, good afternoon. So I'm Chris O'Brien. How are you? I am the owner's rep for Oglala, Pine Ridge, and Wakpomni. So I'm going to give you guys an update on where we're at on the status of those 3 buildings specifically. And I sent out a report. Did you guys get all that report? Is that in your guys' packets? Okay. So I was kind of running through that. I know at the E&BD meeting, one of the concerns was how long it's taking. So I want to kind of go through some of the history of the buildings at least, and talk about that a little bit. Right now, if you guys have noticed, they're all progressing. We have structures up in Oglala and Pine Ridge with site work and concrete progressing at Wakpamni with the building erection starting on Friday to get the structural steel up. Some of the history of this building, these buildings include a lot of iterations of design. We started out with the owner's rep selection, and there's 3 owner's reps for the 9 buildings total. And then we went through and determined the ways we were going to contract these buildings out, worked through a lot of legal discussions and contractual issues on these buildings because of the nature of the funding, and that took a lot of time to it. So in my report, I kind of talk about some of those delays we ran into, and I'll kind of just touch upon that and then tell you where we're at on the rest of them. So on those 3 sites specifically, we developed our project as a design build project. So we selected a contractor that would have a design team and develop the design in coordination with the districts. And then we progressed on to the building phase of these projects. And our packages were finished up around August of 2024. And then we worked through council trying to get awards for those contracts. With Oglala and Pine Ridge were awarded like late September of 24, and Wakpamni was at the end of December of 24, which put us a couple of months behind of Wakpamni. And that's kind of where we're sitting at right now, is Wakpamni is a couple of months still behind the other 2. Just those initial delays with some contractual discussions that we had over and above the other 2. We've had a few issues that we've been able to resolve throughout the process. So at Pine Ridge and Wakpamni, we did some investigative soil sampling and testing. And when we got on site and started doing excavation, we found additional soil issues. So some of that involved topsoil or organics being quite a bit deeper than what we anticipated. So we had to determine to what extent we had to excavate those soils out. Ended up at Pine Ridge and Wakpamni digging out quite a bit of soil to get down to good dirt and then bringing it back up again. Resolve those issues on site. And then in February, if you recall, we had a contractor get banned from the tribal projects. And that was our concrete contractor, subcontractor for Wrangell Construction, who's the prime contractor. And we've been able to offset some of the delays on that and the cost to try to find another contractor to work on. The difficulty with that is we're using another local concrete contractor, and we're definitely putting him in a predicament with so much work and so many buildings that he's working on, trying to manage his crews and his productivity and what he can accomplish as fast as he possibly can. So some of those things have caused us a few delays along the way. Overall, we've been trying to mitigate any costs associated with that, but there is some time associated with that. So we've been really good about the prime contractor has utilized a lot of Taro certified contractors. And by doing that, we've been, from the guidance I received initially from the council, is breaking these projects up as much as possible to allow for local smaller contractors to be able to work on them, phasing them. As you've seen, you might see in the buildings that they're not all going up equally at the same time. They're being phased out so that our local contractors can work on them, jump from one to the next, and be able to be productive and not fail, right? That's our goal, is to have successful subcontractors, especially local subcontractors. So we have had a couple of issues with mostly on the structural steel side of the subcontracting. So we've worked through with the local subcontractor on the structural steel taking longer than we initially anticipated. So working with him and Terrell, bringing in some additional support for some of these projects. So at Oglala, we brought in some additional manpower. At Pine Ridge, we're bringing in a crew to help that local subcontractor with the roofing section of that building. And then we're in discussions. Wrangell has brought in another crew to do the structural erection in Waukpomni. So just some delays that we've seen, just manpower issues. I think there's a lot of work right now on the reservation. Not only these 9 buildings, but there's a lot of other work going on. So we're really taxing our local contractors. So initially, we talked about these buildings being about an 18-month project. And when we developed our contracts for construction, we set a date of December 31st, 2025 as completion date, with our anticipated start date of being midsummer of 2024. So as we work through trying to get those contracts approved, we got into, towards the end of 2024 into being, end of September, end of October for Waukpomni. And that in itself causes some headaches with site work, frost, freezing temperatures. So we left that schedule alone, December 31st, 2025 as our completion date on our contracts. The funding source for these projects has a completion date of December 31st of 2026. So right now we have over a year to get these projects done, all of the funding spent, including the funding that you guys have set aside for the districts. So right now we're sitting good. I think that with some of these delays, we're going to be pushing into spring of 2026. And we've got some formal change orders and time extensions coming up to present to first the EB&D and to talk about that. This will be kind of the same format when we bring that forth, but with still the goals of exceeding, easily meeting the financial requirements of December 31st, 2026. So overall, Pine Ridge is probably in front of Oglala. They're about neck and neck right now on completions, with, like I said, Waukpomni a couple months behind that, but trying to expedite with bringing in this new subcontract for the structural steel. I think we're going to probably speed that process up considerably. Our framing is going to be some of the next items to be done inside those 2 buildings, the structural steel and Waukpomni. Majority of the site work is done. A large portion of all the concrete work is done. I think overall, I'm happy with what Wrangell has done. I think looking at all 9 districts, I think that we're working consistently alongside everyone else to work with our local subcontractors to make sure that they're not overwhelmed too much. I'd like to open it up to questions for you guys. I definitely have tried to send out weekly reports to the districts and try to make sure that we have those covered and you guys are receiving those. I have also set up some Zoom meetings to try to get some updates out and some site meetings to get some updates out. I know it's been kind of tough to get everybody together in the past few months, but I've been trying to send those out and set those up so I can give everybody updates and get that information out the door. So.
Councilman Spotted Bear.
Thank you, President. Good evening, Mr. Obrien. So I requested for you to be on the agenda for EB&D out of my frustration and not seeing any progress on our building in Pine Ridge. And I understand that you cover the 3 districts and our district, Waukpomni district and Oglala district. And the frustration that I was seeing is that I drive by that building every day on my way to our committee meetings, every day on our way to get groceries, every day just in anything we have to do. I see this metal building with absolutely no workers on that building. I see a pile of dirt that has grass growing on top of it. And so I asked for our committee chair to add you to the agenda. Because yes, I could have called you and asked for an update directly. However, that doesn't that doesn't solve the frustrations that I deal with. Because then I hear, oh, well, it's a distance issue. We're highly rural, and it's a location issue. It's a manpower issue. It's a contracting issue. But then I drive down the street to Mahbia Luta and I see their building being erected, and it's a very nice building, and in a shorter time period than our multi-million-dollar metal buildings. And that only further frustrates me, because then I look at ours with nobody on our building, and I see a need for this facility for our people in our community. And so I asked you to be at our committee meeting that you couldn't attend, and I understand you had other obligations there. However, we did have a representation there, and he did let us know that benchmarks were not being met. So your report from his report is differing from right now. So I don't like that. What I'm hearing is that we're still on date to finish a metal building by December 2025, now possibly spring 2026. But then I still see a handful of people maybe putting a sheet of metal up at a time every time I drive by there. And those walls are paper thin. I could see it in any direction. And I mean, now that we're slowly getting it up. But, you know, when we're talking about meeting locations, there's so many opportunities that these buildings are going to bring to that we can utilize these facilities for. But then I go to Macbia Luta and they have a very nice building, and I'm seeing that they're laying concrete down on their ground. So why is it taking so long for our metal buildings to be erected? And then you say, well, it's a manpower. And if it's a manpower, then why aren't we moving on to the next contract? If that contractor is not doing what we need them to do, then you as the person in charge to make that decision, why aren't you moving on to the next contractor?
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, specifically Pine Ridge is a good example to talk about. So in the last 2 months, I have felt the same way. I felt that the structural steel was not going fast enough, as fast as it could. So I expressed that concern to Wrangell Construction, and we met on site with the local subcontractor doing the structural steel and the skin of the building, and expressed those concerns and had some emails back and forth expressing those concerns to make sure and document that we weren't happy with the progress of it. So we had some promises that were not met, and so since then, we've decided to go on with the partnership with Wrangell as the prime contractor. They're going to bring in another crew to do the roof on that project, because it seems like the subcontractor is having a hard time keeping up. Manpower issues, like he talked about, the typical excuses, of course, but just not seeing the productivity that we anticipated. And that's why we're going to bring in another crew to do Wakpamni, because we don't feel like that contractor probably has the capacity to be able to do both concurrently if they're having a hard time completing the one at Pine Ridge. So I feel like I have the same concerns as you, and I brought that up with Wrangell on that. And I think that we've gotten to the point where we're going to proceed past that. But yes, the last 2 months have been slower than we anticipated. And that's kind of the next step, is we have to get this building enclosed to be able to do the work on the inside. Doing anything else on the inside, you know, Murdoch Electric has been on site doing some electrical rough in for us. They've been on top of things very well, but they can only do so much. Until that building is enclosed, they can't really do anything else with putting up any more walls, any more conduit, those type of things. So I think you're exactly right. I think that some of this structural has been slow and slower than we anticipated. It's behind the schedule, and trying to bring that back up, or at least get it caught up, and bringing in additional crews and additional subcontractors to do that.
Thank you, Chair, our President.
Councilwoman, Little Hot question.
Yeah, thank you, President, and good afternoon, Chris. Yeah, I know that we kind of been having some hit and miss meetings with you, but I did get your emails. And for a while I got emails and then my email was not working. So I'm glad you sent the report to me today on another email. But, I drive by those same buildings, Oglala and Pine Ridge. And then when I'm on my way home, I look to the back and ours is not even up. And so I was kind of wondering, what is going on that our multipurpose building isn't at least, being built so far.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that you're here today and that you're telling us reasons why what you've been running into. And you're saying manpower, but we also heard it was contractor, the subcontractor that wasn't meeting timelines and able to get a lot of this work done. So in that case, as our owner's rep, then I'm glad you said Ringel is the prime contractor now to get things moving. And he's going to look for a subcontractor to help get these buildings up, right?
Correct.
Yeah, because we need our
We-
multi-purpose building. I don't know, you're saying sometimes in the spring you might have Wakpamnis up?
Yes.
So I'm really hoping we see something done because, I know compared to Mahwea Luta, that's just one project compared to 3. And you're the owner's rep with 3 projects that you have to work on. So, I'm sure they're moving quickly because they're only doing 1. And they're probably concentrating on all of that. But you have to concentrate on all these 3 districts. So, I understand where you're coming from on that. But at the same time, we need to see some progress. Because right now, Wakpamni hasn't even, we've seen everything sitting out there, but we haven't even seen nothing. But now you're telling us about the soil.
Yes.
And so has everything kind of come back okay or?
Yeah, we've been able to deal with the soil issues. We've been able to deal with the loss of the concrete contractor. So, we've been able to deal with these issues and stay within that budget and remediate all these items. And like I said, that structural steel erector is supposed to mobilize on Friday. So next week, you'll see some structural steel going up. His time frame is about 2 months to get that building enclosed, which that was our anticipation for Pine Ridge, and it's been quite a few months more than that. So it should go up quite a bit faster, and they'll probably almost catch up to Pine Ridge and Oglala
Okay.
to a
well,
point.
All right, well, sounds good. I know you kind of mentioned change orders. I'm hoping we don't have any change orders, within our multi-purpose building, I don't know if our budget is even included in there with change orders. I think all the budgets were set for the amount of what they're supposed to be, how you were gonna
Correct.
use that budget. So I just don't see us foreseeing any change orders in our project.
Just to clarify that too, see, the change would only be for some time based on some of these items that I presented. There is no additional funding for these buildings. So there can be no more cost, there can be no cost change orders.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But I think all 9 contracts have contingencies built in. So there is some flexibility in the budgets, but Chris is right. The guaranteed maximum price, that's the price. We don't have funding to go above that. Yeah. And I think what Chris said about Wakpamni, you remember in the fall of 24, there was that issue about taro. So Pine Ridge and Oglala were approved in September. And I know that Wakpamni had meetings and came to a decision. So there's what their GMP, guaranteed maximum price amendment, was approved in November. So that's the 2 months Chris is talking about. It was related to that issue.
You have nothing built yet because of that.
Well, there's a couple of things for Wakpamni. I can kind of give you some more input on that. So we, ran into some, we couldn't start right away because we were in the winter. So starting the site work was not productive at that time, and it would have been cost prohibitive. But also there are some additional things at Waukpomni that doesn't apply to some of the other sites. And that would be, we ran a new water main under the highway to the site, which was over and above what had to do at some of the other sites. A new septic system we had to put in there. So quite a bit more site work or site infrastructure work at Waukpomni that was part of the cost associated and some of the time associated. Some of the site work we dealt with, that soils issue, and then the concrete subcontractor definitely did not help with some of our schedules at the beginning of the project. So.
Councilman Weston.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chris. Some of the questions, I mean, they covered a lot of issues there concerning their buildings there, which are all the same, Oglala, you know that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was bringing up to Phil Davis in committee, the committee meeting, I don't know if he addressed it with you, but like what Councilman Spotted Bear talked about, you know, was the personnel, you know, and like them, I go by this building every day. And there's been this whole summer long, there's been 4 and 5 days with no activity, with perfect weather.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 0 clouds in the sky, perfect building weather. Now here comes fall. Now you're saying it has to extend? You know, I don't see eye to eye with you on that. You know, that's, you know, to me, that subcontractor mismanagement of time. I have pictures here that I started taking back in April when I first started noticing those kind of things. You know, I've worked with you over in Kyle IHS, you know, when you guys were first starting out back in 2007, 8, somewhere around there. You know, and you guys worked yourself up to where you're at now. But in the meantime, I was down south, you know, and I've watched and, you know, through IHS, you know, watched contractors and basically they asked me to be like a project manager for IHS, you know, on different clinics that were being built, you know, and the timelines that these contractors had, you know, so I do have that experience. And watching these buildings, you know, I'd fire everybody with this timeline because these are metal buildings. You give me a crew of 4 or 5, this would have been skinned inside of a month. I've seen it happen. You know, and that's going on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no rush to it. I've watched buildings bigger than this get erected in less time. You know, way bigger, probably 3 times as big with a crew of 4 or 5. You know, so I'm going to state that to you that these guys, these contractors that you have, wrangle, you know, the management of time just ain't there because you go by these places like she stated,
Mm-hmm.
you know, there's no activity. There's not even an employee, you know, that shouldn't happen, especially with the contract you have to build a building. You know, it should be happening just about every day. Like I stated to Phil Davis, you know, that skin there, you know, I have a picture from April with just the bare framing, you know, and you go back all the way to July 12th is when they first started putting on skin. April to July. There's something wrong there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we have concerns. You know, especially with these guys' building not as progressed as Oglala's, but I'm gonna speak up for them. That timeline shouldn't be, you know, happening like that. You know, this should be, I mean, I've watched, you know, a crew of 4 or 5 during the day, and they may be putting on maybe 2 or 3 sheets and calling it good. You know, and I asked Phil Davis about the kit, and he said the kit is all there. You know, they should be going as fast as they can, as much as they can, because they're getting paid for it. You know, so those are the concerns that we all have, you know, especially with their buildings being, you know, almost non-existent yet. You know, but that personnel issue is the one that I wanted to bring up with you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I have expressed my concern as the owner's rep. I felt like they're moving too slow also. I feel the same way you guys feel. And I've expressed that, and we've had discussions about that. We have biweekly meetings talking about schedule and trying to push to get these buildings completed in a timely fashion. And I'll re-express that and reiterate that with them, you know, every time I talk to them about this project. This is a critical project for the districts. They need to have these buildings completed, and I agree with that 100%. And it's my goal to push hard on getting these projects done to, you know, the greatest feasibility possible.
Councilman Gosper.
Thank you, Chair. How you doing, Chris?
Good. How are you?
Chris, I was just going through my photos, and we had our groundbreaking out in Walk-Balmy, July 17th in 2024. I'm gonna express my concerns too. I get you said you done the water, you done the sewer, you done the dirt work. That got done. But Chris, there's a lot of times I drive out there and by Walk-Balmy, nothing's being done. Like seriously, half the summer, nothing was done out there. That falls on your shoulders. And just like everybody else express the same concerns, there's nothing being done. I don't know if the general can't handle the capacity, or I don't know if you're too busy as IHS or what, but you need to put more time into the tribe too, Chris, because we're paying you a lot of good money. And everybody else kind of touched on everything else, but my thing is just, there's nothing being done at Walk-Balmy, and it frustrates me because I get my district calling me and saying, how come everybody else is being worked on and not ours? And if you go around the reservation, Chris, I think Walk-Balmy is the only one that didn't even start going up. We got the dirt done, but we ain't going up, building up. So from here on out, I'm going to start putting pressure on you because that falls on your lap. I know you say you've been having meetings, but ultimately you have the power to say, hey, get it done or we're going to replace you. You've been through these contracts enough to, you know, you wouldn't know when to break them or not. But at this point, something needs to get going because there's no way we're going to be done in December next year. Pine Ridge might be, Oglala might be, but Walk-Balmy is not going to be done. But it's just that you got to get him going, Chris. Bottom line, if not, then get a different sub. Get a different general or not. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, and that's what we've done at Walk-Balmy is we did get a new subcontractor that's starting next week on the structural steel. So that's going to expedite that quite a bit. So by the next council meeting, you're going to have some different things to look at. And I feel like you're going to be a lot happier.
And I just want to say, Chris, I drive out there. I'm serious, like half the summer, nothing happened.
Yep.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. With that, you know, I want to comment on that too. This is why we got to uphold that Terrell ordinance, because we have people there to monitor our contractors here on the reservations. But when we waive those Terrell fees, the Terrell Commission cannot go out there and monitor them because we waived them. That's one thing I wanted to point out there, that we do have an ordinance, terror ordinance in place, we need to abide by, so we can, it'll help protect, our tribe, our tribal employees, our tribal contractors and things like that. And we can monitor our contractors here on a reservation. So I just want to throw that out there. You have anything for closing or? Oh, one more. Okay, go ahead, Councilman Dreamer.
Thank you, Chair. How you doing, Chris?
Good.
I get a hold of Chris and, I voiced my concerns with him and he took them into consideration and we had a good conversation. And, we just have to stay on a positive note. I know the way things are going right now with the progress, but let's try to keep moving forward in a positive way. And, with your next report, I believe that we'll see what you've been talking about. And I just want to say that to the council, let's just try to stay positive and keep it going forward. So thank you, Chris, for your hard work and all that you're doing.
And I appreciate that. These projects have been a long drawn out duration, starting from, back when COVID-19 resulted in this funding. It's taken a long time to get these projects moving. And I think that the council has done a really good job. And I think we're making good progress. I really want to see these buildings come to fruition for the districts. And I think that we're on our way. So I really plan to keep pushing. I plan to keep giving you guys updates. I'd love to have some site visits for everyone to walk through and see the progress on site. Zoom meetings, if you guys want to get together and talk about things, we need to make sure we can have a priority to get those accomplished too. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for coming out and giving us that report. We'll know, we'll see some progress next month. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to law and order. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to the chair.
Thank you, Chair. We have two resolutions here for 2/3 items. Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe require verification of qualifications / requirements and background investigation and drug testing clearance as applicable to the position to be completed by the OST Human Resources Department for the Tribal Council of Political Appointees prior to bringing forth applicants to the Tribal Council for selection and appointments. Skipping down to the fourth, whereas the Tribal Council is the body that selects and appoints individuals to work for the tribe, including but not limited to the following positions: Supreme Court Justices, Tribal Court Justices, Attorney General, Tribal Prosecutors, In-House Attorneys, Chief of Staff, and Chief of Police. And whereas there have been problems arising with appointing individual pending clearance of the background investigation with appointees not attaining background or drug clearance prior to selection and individuals not getting required clearance, causing the re-advertisement process to have begin again and creating a delay in the selection of the individuals. And whereas the Law and Order Committee has reviewed the matter and recommends the approval of this resolution by the Tribal Council. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby require verification of qualifications and/or requirements and background investigation and drug testing clearance as applicable to the position to be completed by the OST Human Resources Department for the Tribal Council political appointees prior to bringing forth applicants to the Tribal Council for the selection and appointment. And be it further resolved that the positions for the Tribal Council political appointee includes, but is not limited to, the following positions: Supreme Court justices, tribal court associate judges, attorney general, tribal prosecutors, in-house attorneys, chief of staff, and chief of police. Certification, motion.
Motion by Councilman Weston, second by Councilman Randall. Go ahead, question. Councilman Puyer?
Shouldn't we add them gaming commissioners now since? I mean, because that's coming up, they're gonna have to have that clearance.
They're under the chief of staff though.
The gaming commissioners?
Oh, is it? That's under
They're-
us too, right?
We're considering appointing somebody, so all that should be taken care of before it gets here.
Maybe we could add them, huh, Lyle?
Yeah.
Add, the gaming commission.
Okay, so with amendments of the gaming commission.
I think, but not limited to that. That statement right there kind of covers them.
Go ahead.
Stacy, does the gaming commission do their own, like their regulatory? You know, their, or did they go through?
I think all they do is that gaming license. I think they do that part where they have them apply for their gaming license, but they don't do any of the other stuff. And just like before, when we talked about it earlier, the committee directed me to advertise. So that's what I did. I advertised and I only got that one letter. And I believe somebody from the committee got the other letter and then it was taken to law and order. But like I said, they weren't completed with their everything
Background
that,
check
yeah.
and their.
And
drug
then,
test?
they were supposed to go do their part with the gaming
Okay,
or do something with the gaming commissioner.
but if we add them on to this resolution, that should take care of it, huh?
Yeah, we could, add it in the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fourth whereas. After the chief of police, we could say chief of staff, chief of police and gaming commissioners. Think that would be appropriate to add them in that paragraph? Okay.
Call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yes.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
David Puyer, David Kelly,
Yes.
Julian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior,
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man, Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Donner Ghost Bear,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr., Anna Halverson,
14 yes, 3 not voting, motion carried.
The vice chair is going to read the next resolution.
Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe, an incorporated tribe. Resolution of the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council of the Oglala Sioux Tribe authorizing a memorandum of understanding between the Native American Training Institute Iqua Family Preservation Program and the Oglala Sioux Tribe. And skipping down to the fourth, whereas the Oglala Sioux Tribe Child Protective Services Iqua program has the opportunity to partner with the North Dakota Native American Training Institute Family Preservation Program to work collaboratively to provide culturally relevant services to OST tribal members that reside in North Dakota and are involved in ICWA cases. And whereas the partners agreed to actively engage with the IFP program in providing culturally responsive services to tribal members, particularly those served by the North Dakota Child Welfare System. Both parties will collaborate to address the needs of tribal children and families. And whereas the OST Law and Order Committee has reviewed the matter and recommends the approval of the memorandum of understanding by the Tribal Council. And now therefore be it resolved that the Oglala Sioux Tribal Council does hereby authorize the memorandum of understanding between the Native American Training Institute Equal Family Preservation Program and the Oglala Sioux Tribe has attached and incorporated by reference as if fully set forth herein, and be it further resolved, the tribal president or in his absence and the tribal vice president is hereby authorized to sign the memorandum of understanding. Certification motion.
Motion by Councilman Randall. Second by Councilman Weston. Call for the vote.
Jeremy Rosales,
Yeah.
Beef Randall,
Yes.
Sonia Little Hawk Weston, Blaine Little Thunder,
Yes.
David Poyer, David Kelly,
Yes.
Jillian Spotted Bear,
Yes.
Norman Standing Soldier,
Yes.
Richard Greenwald Senior,
Yes.
Ryan Jumping Eagle Senior.
Yes.
Lyle Weston,
Yes.
Bo Little White Man,
Yes.
Jackie Sears,
Uh-huh.
Donald Ghost Bear,
Yes.
James Cross,
Yes.
George Dreamer Jr., Anna Halverson,
15 yes, 2 not voting, motion carried. Uh, 15 yes, 2 not voting.
So, thank you, Chair. We have an item with, continuing on with the Chief of Police. The discussion, we continue from yesterday. Danielle? And we were talking about whether or not to, her salary. For the admin leave.
Okay,
So if we want to continue that discussion here and whether or not to approve it
right there.
with that discussion.
Hey, hang on a second.
Chair, I thought that was taken care of by you granting the admin leave, and then Cora said there was monies available to pay.
But there was no action taken though.
Uh, Let's take 5-minute break because we're gonna pull the minutes on it. Action. Get up, stretch out. First break of the day.